Evilmoon's two dragon marks lit up. At the same time, its crescent tip gained a sinister, ghastly glow. That glow was like the faint smirk of a fiend, yet also like the glimmer of a dragon's tooth. A hair-raising sinister aura rose. Boom. Long Chen's Evilmoon and Xiang Yunfei's violet heavenly bone spear smashed into each other. As a result, the world lost all its color and was split into black and violet instead. An explosion of divine might erupted. The void cracked all the way into the clouds. The world was split in two. As black and violet energy clashed, both Long Chen and Xiang Yunfei coughed up blood and were blown back. That exchange had been so powerful that their bodies had almost been destroyed. A huge shockwave spread in every direction, annihilating the mammoth primordial spirit beasts and Lei Long. This wave of energy struck Chu Jianying's domain, and cracks appeared all along her barrier. The experts behind her barrier turned green with fright. If this barrier broke, they would all be killed. Chu Jianying hastily formed hand seals to strengthen her barrier. Only then did she manage to block the power of their exchange. What powerful weapons! Chu Jianying was stunned. She hadn't expected that Long Chen's saber would be so powerful. Up in the sky, Long Chen and Xiang Yunfei were still coughing up blood, but Evilmoon and the heavenly bone spear were still clashing. Black and violet light raged so intensely that the world shuddered. The sound of a mammoth and a dragon rose as this violet and black world raged. An image of a mammoth fighting a dragon appeared in people's minds. Flesh and blood flew, mountains were torn asunder. Kill! Long Chen and Xiang Yunfei had just been blown back when they suddenly charged at each other again, ignoring their heavy injuries to try killing their opponent. How fierce! Despite being covered in blood, despite that last exchange almost shattering their bodies, the two of them didn't hesitate to attack again. The two of them clashed together fiercely. The world shuddered and dimmed, but when they separated, people found it difficult to believe their eyes. The instant they exchanged blows, their past injuries had healed. It was like they hadn't been injured in the first place. What's going on? Are my eyes broken? Is what I'm seeing an illusion? The two of them are both scheming. It seems they had the ability to instantly heal but wanted to bait their opponent instead, so they waited until the final moment to heal. Not only is their power far greater, but even in terms of intelligence, they make us seem like fools. Will I even be able to properly cultivate in the future? This blow makes me feel hopeless. One person bitterly smiled, feeling like all his future prospects were lacking right now. Boom. Evilmoon and the heavenly bone spear suddenly both retreated. Neither one of them was able to suppress the other. Again! Long Chen and Xiang Yunfei once more shouted at the same time, smashing their divine items at each other. Both of them were once more bloodied by the collision of divine items. This time, it was even worse, and they tumbled back, their bodies about to collapse. However, when they crawled back up, their injuries were fully healed. People felt like they had to be crazy, and what they were seeing had to be a dream. This made no sense. Xiang Yunfei has his ancestors' blessing and is also connected to the other world, the ancestral tomb of the mammoth race. He can rely on that other world's energy to heal instantly. But Long Chen, how is he doing this? The martial heaven continent has its own laws and heavenly Daos, and although a portion of their power has been subdued by Long Chen, it is at most able to replenish the energy he is using up and not enough for him to instantly heal. Furthermore, he's not using any heavenly Dao energy to heal. That truly is curious. Yen Nantian muttered as he watched the battle. The other Grand Elders shook their heads, also uncomprehending. The two of them repeatedly clashed and were blown back. Their flesh was torn asunder, and their bones were broken repeatedly. Even their skulls appeared more than once. However, the two of them didn't even frown. They both knew that only by unleashing the power of their divine items could they give meaningful injuries to their opponents. Long Chen, I have a whole world supporting me. My recovery abilities are limitless. How are you going to compete with me? Xiang Yunfei was hacking up blood, but he instantly healed once more and charged over with the heavenly bone spear. You should think before bragging. The energy from your world is growing weaker and weaker, and your healing is also slowing down. Are you not even aware of it yourself? Sneered Long Chen as he slashed Evilmoon down. With Long Chen's reminder, the experts realized that Xiang Yunfei's violet world was no longer as intense as it had been at the start. It seems this heaven-defying recovery ability isn't something he can keep up for long. It was unknown just how many people had grown jealous of this instant recovery ability. With it, they would essentially have an undying body. However, there was no such thing as an undying body in this world. No matter how heaven-defying an ability was, it had to have limits. Fuck, they're taking advantage of when I haven't fully recovered. Otherwise, I'd have long since broken these damn bones. But don't worry, that Heavenly Bone Spear's runic power is running out. I can definitely exhaust it first. It's just that I also won't have much energy left after exhausting it, so you'll have to win on your own, said Evilmoon hatefully. Originally, it had wanted to fully display its power, but it had encountered a tough opponent, irritating it. As long as you can handle the Heavenly Bone Spear, I'm fine. Let's continue exhausting him. I refuse to believe I can't beat him. This was Long Chen's first time encountering such a difficult opponent. He looked in the primal chaos space and saw that almost half of the world trees had withered. Clenching his teeth, he continued fighting. Boom boom boom. A strange cycle was occurring on the battlefield. The two of them would clash with their divine items, be injured, recover, and repeat. How ruthless! The reason experts are experts is because they have to suffer more than others. There are always two sides. Others can only see that they're powerful, but they don't see what they've done to get so powerful. The two of them are already peak heavenly geniuses, but even in a life and death crisis, they are still charging forward without hesitation. As for us, that's the difference. So true experts are all worthy of respect, said Lingshan. Long Chen and Xiang Yunfei's battle had greatly affected her. What she had gained and comprehended from their battle far surpassed what she had gained from climbing the Venerate platform. Now, she knew why Long Chen felt disdainful toward the Venerate platform. By his realm, this kind of spiritual test was practically child's play. He might have already gone through something similar years ago. Upon hearing Lingshan's words, the geniuses present fell into thought. Long Chen and Xiang Yunfei were both more talented and stronger than them, but they were still putting their lives on the line. So for them, if they wanted to get stronger, what excuse did they have to not put everything on the line? What Lingshan didn't know was that in the future, her words would cause a large batch of geniuses to rise in this group. They cultivated as if their lives depended on it, growing into amazing figures. However, that was only something that happened later. Long Chen and Xiang Yunfei's battle was looping over and over. It was a battle of brute force, and it was intense and bloody. However, it was also monotonous. Their auras are starting to fall. Suddenly, someone shouted. However, this was within everyone's expectations. With such a terrifying battle, the exhaustion was great. For their auras to only start falling now was already completely in defiance of the rules of the cultivation world. With their auras falling, their injuries also no longer healed as quickly. In fact, sometimes they weren't even fully healed before they were injured again. However, neither side retreated. They were still charging forward regardless. Seeing them constantly bleeding but still not giving up, seeing their will so firm, the spectators shook with awe. Some people are fated to become experts, not because of how talented they are or how strong their families, but because they have a determination to get stronger even if they have to die, said a Life Star expert. He was no longer young and he sighed sadly. This sigh resonated with countless people. Compared to Long Chen and Xiang Yunfei, their wills were too weak. They couldn't handle hardship. That was the true difference between them. Another explosion and Long Chen and Xiang Yunfei were knocked back once more, tumbling far into the distance. As for Evilmoon and the Heavenly Bone Spear, they stabbed into the ground beside them. The black chi around Evilmoon had vanished, and the violet chi around the Heavenly Bone Spear had also disappeared, revealing its white appearance. Furthermore, even the bone was lacking its original luster. Everyone was deathly silent. They knew that this battle was about to reach its conclusion. Both sides were running out of energy. However, seeing the two of them covered in blood and panting, both friends and foes felt deep veneration for their fearlessness and their determination to never give up. I admit you're very powerful. However, you will still die by my hands. Xiang Yunfei pointed the heavenly bone spear at Long Chen, a contemptuous smile on his face. Xiang Yunfei might be covered in blood, but he was still completely confident. He looked at Long Chen with contempt. This shocked the experts. Both Long Chen and Xiang Yunfei had reached the point of running on empty, and the power of their divine items had also faded. How was Xiang Yunfei still so confident? Long Chen took a deep breath. After wiping some blood off his mouth, he brushed back his messy hair. How unexpected. It seems you still have a trump card? If I didn't have one, would I dare to declare that your life was mine? Xiang Yunfei's manifestation, which had been on the verge of fading, suddenly returned. However, at this moment, his forehead suddenly split open. Violet-red blood poured out. That blood condensed into a mammoth-shaped rune in the sky. Following that, the vague figure within his manifestation slowly walked out. When that illusory mammoth walked out of his manifestation, an ancient bloodline power manifested, accompanied by an earth-shaking rumbling. As the world rumbled, that illusory figure slowly merged into Xiang Yunfei's body. His aura was immediately refreshed, but it also changed somewhat. It was like he was a different person. Even at this time, he still had a trump card. How terrifying! Who would have thought that even after fighting to this point, Xiang Yunfei had still been holding back a trump card? He seemed like an undefeatable god now. Are you angry? Do you feel despair? Do you feel that I'm contemptible? This isn't my power, but the ancestral spirit power my mammoth race has sacrificed for generations. My spiritual yuan might be exhausted, but I can still use my bloodline to summon this power to kill you. Do you feel sullen? Xiang Yunfei held the heavenly bone spear. Its violet light had returned as if it had been revived as well. Sullen? Angry? Contempt? Also no. As long as it's a power you can control, then whether you stole it or borrowed it, it's yours. So I don't feel contempt, anger, or sullenness. I just feel like you're stupid. Do you have a pig's memory? Or did you cultivate just to be a poser? Long Chen pulled Evilmoon back into his spiritual space. Evilmoon had used up all its power and needed time to recover. There was no way around this as the sovereign seal was still present. The power Evilmoon could store and control was very limited. As for Long Chen himself, his spiritual yuan was near empty. This fight had truly been exhausting. Even forcing heaven and earth to hand over their energy didn't allow him to keep up with the exhaustion. However, his expression was still calm. Your mouth's still so tough with death at hand. That's good too. Count yourself lucky to die to my mammoth race's strongest attack. Xiang Yunfei raised the heavenly bone spear. A sea of violet light appeared behind him. That sea slowly condensed into a giant violet spear and grew more and more solid. 108 runes appeared on it, the same ones that were on the heavenly bone spear. The only difference was that the giant violet spear was thousands of times larger. All of a sudden, the world grew so quiet that people could only hear their own heartbeats. Their minds were blank as they stared at the giant spear. Was this a world-destroying attack? The mammoth race has bet everything on Xiang Yunfei. They really didn't hold anything back. What a grand gamble, murmured Nantian. Although it was a gamble, up to now it had paid off. Xiang Yunfei might be a bit too arrogant, but he possessed all the qualities of an expert. He was confident, determined, and fearless. Such a figure was worthy of the mammoth race betting everything on him. Long Chen slowly formed hand seals in front of him. As he floated into the sky, sacred chanting filled the air. It sounded as if gods and devils were murmuring together. Their voices came from above the very heavens to arrive in this world. Upon hearing this chanting, the grand elders were filled with disbelief. The Nirvana scripture? The world shuddered like it was boiling, and waves of heat surged. After that, divine runes erupted, bringing with them dense flame energy that surged toward Long Chen. Heavens, Long Chen also has a trump card left. They're both monsters. Flame runes continued to appear in the air, gathering toward Longchen along with intense heat. It was a frightening appearance. Longchen raised his right hand. A black lotus appeared in it. When that black lotus came into existence, Nantian couldn't help being shocked. Ranked second on the Earth Flame rankings, the Black Illusion Dragon Flame? What? The Black Illusion Dragon Flame? Isn't that the wildest flame? It's impossible for someone to control it. An uproar exploded amongst the experts. The Black Illusion Dragon Flame existed only in legend. Let alone seeing it, even those who knew of it were very rare. Furthermore, the legend said that this flame was too berserk, making it useless. There was no way to control it. Perhaps some people might manage to suppress and subdue the Black Illusion Dragon Flame while it was still in its infant form. However, that didn't have any use because it was like a madman. It would attack its owner at random times and refuse to listen to orders. However, now that this Black Lotus appeared in Longchen's hand, even the old monsters that had lived for countless years were struck dumb. Longchen had completely toppled their understanding of the world. The Flame Lotus floated into the sky, crazily absorbing flame energy. As the sacred chanting continued, it grew stronger and stronger. Flame chains grew out of each petal, converging together to form black spheres atop each petal. The spheres were like black pearls. However, each of these pearls possessed a terrifying aura that made people's hair stand on end. They sensed terrifying destructive power from each pearl. "This thing is crazy," said one of the Grand Elders in shock. As everyone was filled with shock, the Flame Lotus was continuously strengthened by flame energy. It quickly grew to 3,000 meters. The Flame Lotus slowly revolved. As a result, the void rumbled and boomed as cracks appeared in it. It was like the very sky was being torn apart. It seems it's still not enough. But if I keep going, I probably won't be able to control it, cursed Longchen inside. This was a move that he had invented on his own. Using the primordial rune from the immemorial path as a foundation, he had merged Starfall into it. This move was definitely terrifying. On the surface, it was equivalent to 9 Starfalls exploding at once, but due to how they affected each other, he found that there was no way to truly calculate this move's power. He had tested it, and the result was that he had injured himself badly. Based on his estimation, its power was at least above 81 Starfalls exploding on their own. Furthermore, it was still in an embryonic form. He had not perfected this move yet, and there were still many flaws that he was working on. However, with his little remaining spiritual yuan, he could only use this move. It went without saying that Xiang Yunfei was very powerful, or perhaps more accurately that the Mammoth race's foundation was very solid. They had managed to force Longchen to this point. Xiang Yunfei's giant violet spear was growing more solid, and it was truly like a giant heavenly spear now. Longchen clenched his teeth. The 9 pearls on the petals began to rapidly spin, and the Flame Lotus grew explosively. The lotus was filled with a destructive aura. What a terrifying destructive aura. Just what is this move? Is it also a Paragon art? Startled cries rang out. Longchen's Black Lotus was bizarre and berserk, and it made everyone feel uneasy. This is a world-destroying power. It seems this technique is not complete, but this power. Chu Jianying, don't be careless. Strengthen the barrier as much as possible. This move should not be underestimated. Nantian had light flowing in his eyes as he looked at the Flame Lotus. His expression was solemn. Chu Jianying quickly made some hand seals, and life and death energy surged out of her. New runes appeared on her barrier as she raised its defense to an even greater level. I didn't expect you to also have held something back. However, you're too late. My Paragon art is already complete, and I won't give you a chance. The spear behind Xiang Yunfei suddenly shook. His technique was complete, and he immediately launched it at Longchen. I never need anyone to give me my opportunities. Furthermore, this should be enough if it's just to kill you. Longchen didn't allow the Black Flame Lotus to absorb any more flame energy. If it grew any stronger, he felt like he wouldn't be able to control it. The Flame Lotus was 30,000 meters long. As the flame runes filling the sky shattered, a fierce destructive will exploded. The flame lotus was clearly a bit unsteady. It was starting to grow out of control, causing Long Chen's expression to change. He had given the flame lotus too much energy, and it was starting to run rampant. However, then a dragon roar came from the flame lotus, causing it to stabilize. This black flame lotus had been condensed with all of Huolong's power. However, Huolong's energy had just been the seed. It was the Nirvana scripture that had drawn out all the world's flame energy for it. The flame energy was the fertile soil that had allowed the seed to rapidly grow. But now there was so much foreign energy that it was starting to change. Fortunately, even though this seed had grown into a tree that towered into the heavens, it still remembered the original seed. Huolong used that connection to temporarily control it. Mammoth heaven slaughter. Xiang Yunfei's roar rang out. The huge spear pierced forward mercilessly. World annihilation flame lotus. Long Chen also let out a roar. His spiritual strength erupted, and the flame lotus smashed toward the huge spear. The spear's size, aura, and all other areas seemed to far surpass the black flame lotus. But when the two of them collided, the giant spear paused. It was unable to pierce through the flame lotus. It blocked it? Startled cries rang out. Long Chen's flame lotus seemed minute in the face of the giant spear, but it had blocked it. The flame lotus continued to slowly revolve. The tip of the spear was ground away, becoming a blunt object as if the flame lotus was a rapidly spinning grindstone. Impossible! Xiang Yunfei's expression completely changed. This giant spear was his strongest attack. He had even summoned his ancestors' power. Hence, this attack even possessed the power to kill Nether Passage experts. However, that black flame lotus had actually blocked it. His spear was unable to pierce through it. Furthermore, he felt the spear's energy being ground away. That was the most horrifying thing. Xiang Yunfei suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. The energy inside that blood was shocking. It was his essence blood. The essence blood formed a mammoth image in the sky. Xiang Yunfei coughed up 2 more mouthfuls of blood, strengthening the mammoth image. Are you pregnant? Is this your morning sickness? Asked Long Chen. Xiang Yunfei coughed up blood once more, but this time it was just ordinary blood, not essence blood. He had bitten his tongue. This distraction caused Xiang Yunfei's mammoth image to quiver. It almost crumbled, and Xiang Yunfei hastily spat out another large amount of essence blood. On the other side, Long Chen was panting. Even his soul was in pain. He had used up too much spiritual strength, and it seemed he had overdrafted his spiritual yuan. This was his first time using the World Annihilation Flame Lotus against an enemy, and he had never used it with so much power. From the start, he knew that his chances of getting an easy victory were almost non-existent. Moreover, he didn't want to just defeat Xiang Yunfei. He wanted to kill him. So even though Xiang Yunfei's yuan spirit had been injured, Long Chen hadn't tried charging at him, instead accepting Xiang Yunfei's attrition battle. If he had gone all out at that time, he would have had an 80% chance of defeating Xiang Yunfei, but he wouldn't even have a 10% chance of killing him because Xiang Yunfei would run. So all the way back then, Long Chen had already been preparing to exhaust all of Xiang Yunfei's energy and kill him with the World Annihilation Flame Lotus. When Xiang Yunfei had been healing his yuan spirit, Long Chen had been imagining and extrapolating how to use the World Annihilation Flame Lotus. Using this move was still very dangerous for him, and rather than annihilating a world, it would annihilate him first if he made a mistake. However, Long Chen hadn't expected Xiang Yunfei to also have such a terrifying trump card. His goal had actually been the same as Long Chen's. He had wanted to exhaust all his energy and then kill Long Chen in one final move. The good thing though was that the World Annihilation Flame Lotus was even stronger than what Long Chen had imagined. This World Annihilation Flame Lotus's core power was condensed in the 9 star falls. The 9 petals were just there as a frame for the star falls. Seeing that Xiang Yunfei's attack wasn't even able to break the outer frame of the World Annihilation Flame Lotus, it seemed that it wasn't qualified to compete with it. The greatest surprise to Long Chen was that he didn't even need to control it after he launched it. Huolong's own will was enough to keep it stable. As for Xiang Yunfei, he was at a disadvantage. The spear was constantly being ground away, and its energy was dissipating into the air. He had to use his own essence blood to keep strengthening it, or it would be broken. Using my blood, I summon my ancestors' undying spirits. Lend me your power to destroy the enemy before me. Xiang Yunfei crossed his arms before his chest and began to chant. The blood image in front of him seemed to come to life, and it flew into the giant spear. The spear shook intensely. Blinding divine light erupted. Die! Xiang Yunfei was pale, but his eyes contained a bit of madness and malevolence. Having exhausted too much of his essence blood, he had paid a terrifying price to kill Long Chen. The spear began to pierce the flame lotus's exterior. However, the flame lotus did not crumble but instead began to shine as well. The 9 stars on top of it began to rumble as if they had been awoken from their slumber. Long Chen was staring closely at these changes. This was his first time using this technique at full strength. The results would allow him to see how he could further perfect it. As the petals were destroyed, the flame lotus's energy became unbalanced. The 9 stars took the lead, leaving the flame lotus and forming their own ring. This black ring condensed the energy of the 9 stars into the center. The energy had just gathered in the center when it rebounded back to the 9 stars. As a result, the 9 stars instantly exploded. Darkness enveloped the world. Xiang Yunfei's spear was destroyed instantly, unable to endure that power. This is impossible! Xiang Yunfei roared, unable to believe his eyes. He coughed up a mouthful of blood. This spear had been condensed with the power of his ancestors as well as his own power. It was connected to his soul, and he received a heavy injury as it was destroyed. Xing Yunfei endured the pain. He split his 1 heavenly bone spear into 108 of them, forming 3 walls with them. He was truly an expert with immense combat experience. However, his 3 bone shields were nothing in the face of this black wave. They were sent flying, while Xiang Yunfei was buffeted by the powerful shockwaves to the point that his skeleton shattered and he almost exploded. He was sent tumbling into the distance. The black wave crashed into Chu Jianying's barrier. The barrier shook, and countless cracks suddenly appeared on it. Chu Jianying was shocked. With Yan Nantian's warning, she hadn't been careless. This barrier had been condensed with 80% of her power. However, the impact of Long Chen's attack was actually enough to crack it. That meant that it definitely had the ability to kill Nether Passage experts. Darkness enveloped the battlefield. A terrifying heat was refining heaven and earth. Although it was only darkness in front of them, it somehow felt like countless black dragons were roaring within it. This darkness was pitch black. It was a darkness so dark that it was impossible to see hope. It was a darkness that inspired only fear. Even the Nether Passage experts had summoned their own defenses to block this heat. They could feel the wild energy in the air. Truly worthy of the black illusion dragon flame, famed for its unmatched destructive power, said Yan Nantian as he sensed the black flames crashing against his defenses. The other Nether Passage experts were also stunned. They were only at the edge of the battlefield. If they were at the center, this attack would have taken their lives. The darkness slowly faded. The sky was still gloomy, and the sun seemed like it had lost its power. A terrifying destructive aura still filled the air. Where are they? The battlefield had been completely deformed, but the sky was empty. Neither Long Chen nor Xiang Yunfei were present. Cough, cough. Suddenly, a figure climbed out of the ground. Startled cries rang out. That person was Xiang Yunfei. Xiang Yunfei's entire body was charred black. His hair was gone and he looked like a desiccated corpse. He had just crawled up when he began hacking up blood. The current Xiang Yunfei had completely lost his original grandeur and arrogance. His entire body quivered just by standing. He was looking around for Long Chen's figure. That last exchange had been too terrifying. If it hadn't been for the 108 heavenly bone spears, he would have been turned to ash. He was heavily injured with his soul, chi, and essence badly damaged. He was already on the verge of crumbling. However, he was still looking around. his years of fighting and killing had nurtured his powerful will. He knew that Longchen wasn't dead. This was his best opportunity to kill him. Suddenly, the ground exploded and a figure flew out, charging at Xiang Yunfei. The black saber in his hand mercilessly slashed down. "It's Longchen!" Startled cries rang out. Longchen's robes were still in perfect condition. Other than his aura being in disorder and a bit of paleness, he looked the same as before. So when that flame lotus exploded, he had already charged underground. Considering how strong his physical body is, he was probably able to avoid a heavy injury, said a Life Star expert. His guess was correct. Longchen had immediately charged into the ground when the World Annihilation Flame Lotus was about to explode. However, he hadn't gone too deep. If he did, the underground pressure would have been too great. The depth that he had gone was perfect, allowing him to avoid most of the explosion's power. He was definitely better off than Xiang Yunfei. Boom. Longchen was just about to reach Xiang Yunfei when the ground around Xiang Yunfei caved in. 108 bone spears shot out of the ground at Longchen. Heavens, they still have the energy to fight. Boom. The heavenly bone spears were sent flying by Longchen's saber. Xiang Yunfei's attack had been nothing more than for appearances, but Longchen's attack contained actual power. Xiang Yunfei's arm was smashed apart by one of the bone spears that was sent flying. Longchen didn't give Xiang Yunfei a chance to get away. He sent another slash at his head. It was unknown what technique Xiang Yunfei used, but he was like a phantom, flickering to the side. Longchen's saber missed, slashing into the ground. Longchen is really out of energy, or he would have managed to change his trajectory. They're both exhausted. Xiang Yunfei's technique hadn't been all that marvelous. If Longchen was in his previous condition, he definitely would have been able to react and change the path of his saber to still strike Xiang Yunfei. Longchen suddenly put away Evilmoon and punched Xiang Yunfei. Xiang Yunfei's jaw was broken by this punch, and he let out a snort as he flew back. Without Evilmoon's weight, Longchen's speed increased. He suddenly pointed a finger. A flicker of lightning appeared. Suddenly, sharp sword lights slashed the air, flying right by Longchen's head, causing him to hastily dodge. Longchen's heart shook. He recognized the aura of the one who had just attacked. It was the Grand Elder, Yen Nantian. He didn't know why Yen Nantian was stopping him. However, just as he dodged Yen Nantian's attack, a silent quill flew by the other side of his face. The sword light struck the quill, and a powerful explosion sent Longchen and Xiang Yunfei tumbling away. "Old Hedgehog, I've been waiting for you. Did you think you could hide from me with your little bit of ability?" Chu Jianying's sword appeared in Yen Nantian's hand. Yen Nantian sent another slash at an empty space. "Yen Nanan, do you really think I'm afraid of you?" A cold voice rang out. A symbol appeared in the air, transforming into the size of a mountain that blocked Yen Nantian's sword. At the same time, a ray of light poured out of the sky, enveloping Xiang Yunfei. Xiang Yunfei is getting away. When that light pillar enveloped Xiang Yunfei's body began to grow faint. This was a powerful transportation energy that was bringing him away. "Ha, Longchen, no matter what you try, you can't kill me. Just wait, next time I will definitely dash. Who has time to wait for you?" Longchen had taken out a cyan brick at some point. He smashed it at Xiang Yunfei. The cyan brick erupted with divine light, transforming into a giant brick that smashed down with enough power to turn heaven and earth upside down. Boom! The cyan brick shattered the light enveloping Xiang Yunfei and slammed into the ground. The entire world shuddered violently, and the ground caved in. There was a bottomless hole in the ground now. At the same time, Yen Nantian's attack struck the symbol. A heaven-shaking explosion erupted. Longchen turned to run. He knew that there were two Nether Passage experts fighting with divine items. If he was struck by the shockwaves, he would definitely die. However, he suddenly felt the world spinning around him. He cursed inside. He had overdrafted his energy and didn't have the energy to run. Chu Jianying suddenly appeared in front of him. She extended a hand, blocking the shockwaves for Longchen. "Longchen, how vicious! You actually dared to kill a genius of my ancient races?" Space twisted. revealing a strange person with long hair and quills growing out of his back. That strange person glared at Long Chen furiously. Reminded by this person, everyone hastily sensed the battlefield. They found that Xiang Yunfei's aura had completely vanished. The ground rumbled. The 108 heavenly bone spears suddenly transformed into bolts of light that pierced through the void and vanished. The heaven-flipping seal slowly rose out of the ground. There was now a person pressed onto one side of it. That person was Xiang Yunfei, smashed into flat pulp. He was essentially unrecognizable, but everyone with eyes knew that he was dead to the point that he couldn't be more dead. Even his Yuan spirit was gone. A generation's heavenly genius had really died here. It was difficult to comprehend that this was reality. Just at this moment, Nantian and the other Grand Elders appeared in front of Long Chen, staring coldly at that strange figure. Nantian sneered, "Old hedgehog, after so many years, you still haven't grown a brain." Xiang Yunfei initiated a life and death battle with Long Chen. Now that Xiang Yunfei is dead, Long Chen is the vicious one? Would things only be reasonable if Xiang Yunfei had killed Long Chen? Are you sure that your brain hasn't rotted after living for so many years? Exchanging pointers and learning from each other is normal. It should have ended there. Xiang Yunfei was already defeated, so why did you have to launch the killing blow? Are you trying to incite a war between the ancient races and the Martial Heaven Alliance? Roared that strange figure. The quills on his back were constantly trembling with rage. Long Chen silently put away the heaven-flipping seal. Looking at Xiang Yunfei's corpse, he shook his head. He hadn't expected things to develop to this point. Originally, he had been holding back the heaven-flipping seal in order to collect the heavenly bone spears. Unfortunately, he had been forced to use it on Xiang Yunfei. The heavenly bone spears had fled, and he was powerless to stop them. In the end, he had won nothing. In the face of that ancient race expert's criticism, he couldn't even muster up the will to curse back. Incite a war? Well, if you want to start a war, a single genius is probably not enough. We should add an old hedgehog's life into the mix as well. Suddenly, Nantian stepped forward. The instant he moved, space-time shattered. It was as if he had stepped into another space-time. He slashed the sword in his hand at the ancient race expert. However, it was like they were in a completely different world. They were in an isolated space-time. The two of them were clearly there, but it was like they weren't. Nantian actually launched a killing blow right off the bat. The ancient race expert seemed to have not expected this. The quills on his back grew explosively until they covered the sky. Ear-piercing whistling sounds shook people's ears. Ow! The experts present all covered their ears. Their faces were twisted in pain. That piercing sound was like the cry of a devil stabbing their souls. Long Chen also felt a burst of pain, but it only made him feel uncomfortable. It wasn't able to cause substantial damage to him like the others. "Are you all right?" asked Chu Jianying worriedly. "Everything else is fine, but my heart hurts a bit," said Long Chen, clutching his chest. "What? Did you suffer an internal injury?" asked Chu Jianying, about to check. Long Chen shook his head. "I don't know about any hidden injuries, but after putting in so much effort, those 108 heavenly bone spears still managed to get away. I didn't even manage to get one. I feel like my heart's about to stop." "You little brat, what are you saying at such a time?" raged Chu Jianying. She had actually been worried while Long Chen was just joking. Ah! Suddenly, a miserable scream echoed through the air. Long Chen hastily looked up. A rain of blood fell from the sky, as a streak of sword light pierced through the world. Half of that quilled expert's body exploded. The scream came from him. "Nantian, you just wait. The ancient races aren't so casually provoked." The quilled expert roared, tore through the void and vanished. Nantian shook his head and returned to Long Chen's side. Handing the sword to Chu Jianying, he sighed. "That old hedgehog's cultivation base has fallen a lot during this time. He really made me have an urge to kill him." Chu Jianying received the sword. One of the other Grand Elders said, "He's from the same generation as you. Back then, Although he wasn't a match for you, he still had some ability to fight you. There are probably some shenanigans here. Maybe it wasn't the right choice for us old fellows to stretch our lives out as much as possible. Nantian looked at Longchen. Little fellow, let's go drink a few cups. Longchen nodded. His current condition was terrible. He had overdrawn his energy, and any ordinary Empyrean would be able to threaten his life at this time. In the distance, a few ancient race experts wanted to take Xiang Yunfei's corpse, but they didn't dare to when they looked at Longchen. Take it? My battle with Xiang Yunfei was not based on personal enmity but simply the competition between our powers. Now that he's dead, our enmity is at an end. Longchen waved his hand. Longchen didn't particularly hate Xiang Yunfei. His fight with him was the result of the larger environment. It was part of the laws of the world where the strong devoured the weak. Considering his enmity with the ancient races had long since been set in stone and that Xiang Yunfei was the ancient race's top genius, it was their fate to collide. No one could have changed this. Of course, Longchen wouldn't foolishly give his opponent a path to live or try to reform them. That was stupid kindness. This kind of enmity between whole races was very difficult to change. Kindness would only bring pain. Only once Longchen said this did those ancient race experts take Xiang Yunfei's corpse. They immediately left to bring Xiang Yunfei's corpse back to the barbarian mammoth race. The ancient races were probably about to be shaken. How rude. The ancient races always say that they'll tear senior apprentice brother Longchen's corpse into 1,000,000 pieces, but now that he left Xiang Yunfei's corpse whole and even let them take it away, they don't even say any thanks. The ancient races are just like that. No matter how well we humans treat them, they won't feel grateful. All they know how to do is suck up to the Shen beasts. To them, the farts of the Shen beasts are perfume. Countless disciples began to sneer at the ancient races. If it was Longchen who had lost today, it was unknown just how Xiang Yunfei would humiliate and display his corpse. The difference in character between them was immense. It also reflected the difference between the human race and the ancient races. Everyone can scatter. The divine pressure that still remains on the battlefield means that those at the soul transformation realm and below should try to avoid the core or their souls will be injured, warned Chu Jianying. This battle was worthy of being described as heaven-shaking. After the battle, it was unknown how many disciples ran over to comprehend the wills left behind by the two of them. They could use this to temper their souls. However, many disciples weren't strong enough to endure Longchen and Xiang Yunfei's powerful leftover wills. If those disciples accidentally got too close, they would receive an injury to their souls, perhaps without even noticing. Chu Jianying didn't want this battlefield to cause any deaths amongst talented disciples, so she warned them gravely. After that, she pulled Longchen and began to leave. However, Lingshan suddenly walked out and bowed toward Chu Jianying. Alliance head, I wonder if you would accept me as your apprentice? Oh, how curious. I invited you several times, but you continued to hesitate. Why do you suddenly want me as a master? This little brat couldn't have seduced you, right? Asked Chu Jianying. Cough. Alliance head, please be careful with your words. It's not good to ruin my image like that, coughed Longchen. Scram. Considering how everyone hates you, what image is there to ruin? Cursed Chu Jianying laughingly. Today's battle had shown Longchen's power. There were several times that Chu Jianying had thought that Longchen would be defeated, but he had managed to turn it around. However, then he had killed Xiang Yunfei. Although Longchen was not her personal disciple, he was still one of the disciples beneath the Martial Heaven Alliance, as well as the old man's heir. Hence, Longchen was no different from her own disciple, and his glory was also partially hers. He had also managed to win some honor for the Martial Heaven Alliance and helped them vent. Now, even Lingshan had taken the initiative to ask to be her apprentice. Chu Jianying was incredibly happy and immediately began to treat her as her apprentice. I've been alone since childhood, so I've constantly had to deal with other people's contempt and bullying. The majority of those people came from sects or powerful families, so I dislike them. But once I grew stronger and began to rise, those sects showed me a smile, irritating me even more. That's why I never wanted to join one. I always felt that there was no love within sex and that people were just tools being used. However, your sincerity today has moved me. I don't think that there are that many people in this world that can cherish their disciples like you do, said Yi Lingshan. Yi Lingshan had seen Chu Jianying's rage and sorrow at the first commander and second commander's deaths. She also thought of Long Chen's advice to take Chu Jianying as her master. Therefore, he put aside her pride and took the initiative. A bit of sorrow appeared in Chu Jianying's eyes. She shook her head. I'm a powerless alliance head. I was unable to protect my own disciples. Exenli couldn't help saying, all your actions are for the entire Martial Heaven Alliance and all the lives in the righteous path. You are selfless and have put in so much for the alliance. We're all grateful and we respect you. Countless disciples cheered along with his sentiment. They had all seen Chu Jianying's grief and anger. However, she suppressed those feelings for the big picture. That was because she cared about all the lives within the Martial Heaven Alliance, and all those that could be lost based on her decisions. She had sacrificed the majority of her life for the Martial Heaven Alliance, and she had even put aside her own love for it. She had grief that she had to suppress, but she never asked for any repayment. She viewed this as her mission and her responsibility. Now there were many people who approved of her. She suddenly felt blessed to have so many people look at her like this. Junior apprentice Sister Lingshan, what are you thinking of? Shouldn't you hurry and curry favor with this new master of yours? I should tell you, if you do it well, you'll get plenty of good food and drink in the future. Long Chen winked. Bastard! Chu Jianying cursed and kicked Long Chen, but he actually dodged. However, dodging caused the world to spin around him. Long Chen staggered and collapsed into Yi Lingshan. Are you all right? Asked Yi Lingshan. Long Chen felt his head spinning. He didn't have any energy. He had definitely gone too far this time. However, it wasn't something serious. He would be fine after some time recovering. Unfortunately, all the world trees in the primal chaos space had withered, or he could have acted like he was completely fine. I'm fine, but you're currying favor with the wrong person. Your master's there. Holding me won't get you any benefits, Aya. Long Chen hadn't even finished speaking before Yi Lingshan tossed Long Chen to the side. Just as he was falling, Qingqing caught him. Clearly, Yi Lingshan had seen Qingqing come, which was why she had tossed him aside. Let's go. Jianying, your luck is good to get such a good apprentice. I'm thinking with the great era here, should I also take an apprentice? Wondered Yen Nantian. Grand Elder, take me. Long Chen raised his hand immediately. Little brat, you really want to flip the heavens. You want to be my uncle master? Raged Chu Jianying. She grabbed Long Chen's ear and twisted. Qingqing and the others laughed. Even the other Grand Elders smiled. The heavy atmosphere around the Martial Heaven Alliance lightened. After that, people brought the first commander and second commander's corpses back to the headquarters. Long Chen and the others left. The battlefield was silent, and everyone was looking at each other. In the end, someone finally stepped into the battlefield carefully. As a result, that rank 7 Celestial immediately coughed up blood and retreated. Quite a few people also coughed up blood and flew back. They suddenly noticed that there was a line that if they stepped over, it would feel like a hammer was smashing them. This is where the Alliance head put her barrier. All the pressure of the battlefield is contained here. Only by stepping past it can we enter the real battlefield, but this is too monstrous, isn't it? People were dumbfounded. The battle was already over, but the remnant pressure was still so terrifying. The other top experts also left. Only Di Long and his wife remained standing there. No one acknowledged them. It was like they had been forgotten by the world. Let's go. We can take our time with this matter, said Di Long. Scram, you useless man. How did I end up so blind as to marry you? You weren't even able to avenge my son, so I'll do it myself. Long Chen, I guarantee you won't have a good death. Dixian's mother coldly looked in the direction Long Chen went before turning and leaving. Di Long looked at her back. Once she was gone, his anger faded, replaced with a cold smile. Without saying anything, he also vanished into the void. The battle of heavenly geniuses in Clearwind City had ended with Xiang Yunfei's defeat. Even though a nether passage expert of the ancient races had interfered, Long Chen had still managed to kill Xiang Yunfei. This news caused huge waves throughout the entire continent. Xiang Yunfei had been 8th place on the Devil Slaughter rankings, and he had won this ranking not based on his amazing area slaughter arts, but on true power. He had not relied on techniques to get his ranking, so it could be said that he was a truly terrifying existence. He possessed a Paragon art, as well as ancestral divine items, the 108 heavenly bone spears. He had even summoned the power of his ancestors but had still lost to Long Chen. This battle also slapped the faces of certain malicious people spreading rumors that Long Chen had no power and had relied entirely on cheating to get first place on the Devil Slaughter rankings. In reality, the Devil Slaughter rankings were based on the number of devil creatures that could be slain, so it was mainly testing wide area killing power. That kind of killing power wasn't necessarily strong in one-on-one battles. Xiang Yunfei hadn't relied on area attacks but had still gotten 8th place. Furthermore, at that time, he hadn't used his Paragon art. He had relied entirely on his own power. If Xiang Yunfei had used his Paragon art at that time, perhaps he could have gotten first place. However, such a figure had still died to Long Chen's hands. That proved just how strong Long Chen was. The entire continent was shaken. Those voices raising doubts about Long Chen were silent. Everyone's gazes gathered on the ancient races. Xiang Yunfei was one of the ancient race's top geniuses, and he had been slain by Long Chen just like this. Would the ancient races declare war on the Martial Heaven Alliance? Moreover, Long Chen hadn't only slain Xiang Yunfei. On the same day, he had also slain Di Long's son, infuriating the ancient races and the ancient family alliance in one go. For a while, the continent held its breath as it waited for the results. The name of the Eastern Madman gained even greater power. Long Chen was truly worthy of this nickname. He would do anything regardless of the consequences. However, despite his craziness, he also had the brains to look for solutions to his problems. 3 incense sticks were inserted into the earth. There was a fresh grave here. Long Chen slowly rose from his respect toward this grave. If the first commander was still alive, this bow of yours would be his life's glory, said Lingshan softly. The first commander and second commander had been buried, and the others had already left. Long Chen had come on his own to light a stick of incense for him. He was worthy of it. He was a true hero. Long Chen touched the gravestone, rubbing away some dirt that had gotten onto it. Sometimes I really don't understand men. A single gaze, a single promise is enough for you guys to risk your lives? Are you fools? Asked Lingshan. She placed a flower in front of the grave. However, there were already many flowers covering the ground. We don't understand either, but we feel like we can trust each other. I believe that if the roles were reversed, he would do the same for me. Other than that, you should realize that this was all planned by DXN. Xiang Yunfei's target was me. To put it frankly, I was the one who implicated the two of them, but he didn't blame me for it. Even if he wanted me to destroy the entire ancient family alliance, I'd have done it, said Long Chen. His gaze became cold when he brought this up. Those without any respect were the most dangerous. Because they had no respect, they had no sense of fear or danger. Because they had no sense of fear or danger, they were completely unbridled and capable of doing anything. DXN was such a person. He always thought that no matter what he did, his father and mother would protect him. Even if he couldn't beat Long Chen, he still had the support of his parents. No one could do anything to him. So he had no consideration for the consequences of his actions. Such a person would do things normal people wouldn't even think of doing. If you encountered such a person, you could ignore them, viewing them as an idiot and scum of society. But if you did ignore them, they would obstinately stick to you, and as long as you relaxed the slightest bit, they would do anything to harm you. This time, Di Ryun had been slain, DXN had been eliminated, and Xiang Yunfei had been killed. However, Long Chen felt like he had implicated a pair of innocent siblings. If the first commander hadn't died, perhaps he would have become his close brother. Xiang Yunfei was just one of the ancient race's geniuses. What about Pill Valley? What about the corrupt path? What about the Xian beasts? What about the Bloodkill Hall? What about the ancient family alliance? Just how many people like Xiang Yunfei would come from them in the future? How many first commanders and second commanders would they cause to die? Would those sacrifices become Long Chen's closest friends and family? Upon thinking of this, Long Chen's expression darkened. He had to get stronger. He wanted absolute power so he could shake his enemies, so he could intimidate idiots like DXN. Long Chen, do you have any goals for the future? Asked Yi Lingshan to change the subject. She shivered when she saw his icy killing intent. Goals? Of course I have them. But what's your goal first? Oh, the Alliance head is really generous. She actually gave you her sword. When Long Chen turned to look at Yi Lingshan, he was shocked to notice the sword on her back. That was Chu Jianying's sword. That was a divine item. It was called Falling Star, the opposite of his star fall. It was a sword with a terrifying origin and one of the main treasures of the Martial Heaven Alliance. Yi Lingshan had only just taken her as a master, but Chu Jianying already gave her such a precious sword. It could be seen how much trust she had in Yi Lingshan, as well as how she favored her. Are you selling this sword? I'd like to buy it, said Long Chen. Scram. If you dare to try anything, I'll go all out against you. Seeing Long Chen staring at her sword, Yi Lingshan still said some angry words despite knowing he was partially joking. Her hand flew to the hilt of her sword. Long Chen hastily raised his hands. I was just joking, don't take it so seriously. If we can't do business together, then let's just be amicable. No need to be so angry. This isn't just a sword to me. This is the favor my master bestowed upon me. This sword is a symbol of my loyalty, said Yi Lingshan solemnly. Yi Lingshan's heart, which had been cold for many years, had fully melted thanks to this sword. Chu Jianying had immediately given her such a gift just because she called her master. They hadn't even gone through any formal rites yet. She had suffered a great deal from other people's contempt, but no one had ever treated her like family. That unconditional trust and love had made her swear on her life to properly respect this master of hers. So even though Long Chen was joking, this was still offensive to her. This kind of joke was unacceptable. Please, my guts are too small. Don't scare the crap out of me. Long Chen hastily waved his hands, accepting his loss. If he couldn't even make a joke, he was no longer interested in trying. After seeing him admit defeat, Yi Lingshan's expression softened. Thank you for your medicinal pill. No problem. It was just thanks to my relationship with Qingqing. Rogue. Long Chen shrugged. What's roguish about it? Qingqing's such a kind and beautiful woman. Who wouldn't like her? She'll sooner or later find her companion. Yes, she truly is the type to be liked by others. Tell me, do you like her? Of course I like her. Then have you thought about taking her as a wife? No. Why not? There's no why. I like plenty of people. Am I supposed to marry them all? Something beautiful should just be peacefully appreciated, like a lotus on the riverside. If you pluck it, it will quickly wither. It is only suited to stay by the riverside, while I am fated to not be a riverside. Also, I already have several wives and they're difficult enough to deal with, especially a certain jealous tigress. If she knew I was picking flowers randomly, she'd skin me alive. Yi Lingshan laughed. She found that speaking with Long Chen was very interesting. His words were always direct and sincere. You really are curious. The so-called heavenly geniuses that I've encountered want to gather as many beautiful women as they can in their pockets, as if beautiful women are only fit for them. It's like anything they like should be theirs, sighed Yi Lingshan. I like plenty of things, not just beautiful women. I like powerful people, so am I supposed to marry them? Those 4 old strongest experts from the Martial Heaven Alliance, am I also supposed to marry them? Sorry, that's not to my taste, said Long Chen. Yi Lingshan laughed again. Even the Grand Elders were not spared from his jokes. You might not be interested in us, and that's fine. But we're very interested in you. Suddenly, a voice rang out that made Long Chen and Yi Lingshan's smile stiffen. That voice was from one of the Grand Elders, Yen Nantian. Long Chen's expression changed. He hadn't expected the Grand Elder to be eavesdropping on their conversation. Sorry, Grand Elder. I was the one who forgot. Yi Lingshan suddenly clapped her own head. Yen Nantian did not reply. Long Chen, let's go. Yi Lingshan pulled Long Chen away. What are we doing? Asked Long Chen. I ended up drawn in by your nonsense. I forgot that the Grand Elders wanted me to bring you to the palace. They said there was something important to discuss. Hey, why didn't you say so earlier? Aren't those old fellows going to beat me to death now? Long Chen was about to run. They won't, the Alliance head won't let them punish you, said Yi Lingshan. Afraid that he would really run, she forcibly dragged him away. If you end up conning me to death, I swear my ghost won't let you off, shouted Long Chen. The two of them walked into the palace. The only ones inside were the 4 Grand Elders and Chu Jenny. They had already been waiting for a while. Greetings, Alliance head, greetings, Grand Elders. Yi Lingshan immediately bowed. Long Chen followed suit. You little brat, you're becoming more and more brazen. Do you know how to respect your seniors? Chu Jianying immediately reached for Long Chen's ear. Long Chen had long since been prepared and pulled Yi Lingshan in front of him, shouting, Your beloved apprentice is in my hands. Seeing Long Chen actually take a hostage to extort her, Chu Jianying almost laughed. This little fellow was always so slippery. Jianying, that's enough. Calling us old is just the truth. Long Chen wasn't wrong. Yen Nantian smiled calmly, not minding Long Chen's joke. Only then did Chu Jianying let Long Chen off. Yi Lingshan glared at Long Chen for using her as a shield. Although she knew it was a joke, she wasn't happy. The 4 Grand Elders stood there, looking at Long Chen. That continued for an incense stick's worth of time, and Long Chen was starting to get goosebumps. There's no need to frighten me. I'll kill and extort whoever you want, free of charge. Long Chen finally spoke. The 4 Grand Elders couldn't help but smile. Yen Nantian finally said, Your mind is powerful. Even in this position, you don't show any flaws. It was definitely not a coincidence that you were able to slay Xiang Yunfei. Are you praising me for having thick skin? Long Chen smiled. Having thick skin is also a mental quality. Long Chen, I have one thing to ask you. If Jianying had decided to concede again, you said you would leave the Martial Heaven Alliance. What would you do after that? Asked Yen Nantian. On that day, Long Chen had said that if Chu Jianying allowed the first and second commander's deaths to go unpunished and let go of DXN, he would kill DXN and then leave the Martial Heaven Alliance, severing his ties with them to place all the blame on himself. When he had said that, everyone had been shocked. They had fully experienced Long Chen's domineering side. If he left the Martial Heaven Alliance, he would definitely die. But this also showed his determination. Wasn't the worst case just death? There was nothing to be afraid of. What else would I do? I would kill. In any case, I killed my way out of the Eastern Wasteland. I was on my own at first, a little fellow in just the blood condensation realm, but I dared to face the armies of 2 nations. Now I'm no longer alone. I have a group of beauties, as well as a group of hot-blooded brothers. I don't even know how many times stronger I am compared to back then. Am I supposed to become timid and retreat? If the Alliance had wished to protect the continent's peace in consideration of the big picture by enduring this bullying, that would be my only option. Have you considered the lives of those beauties and brothers of yours? When you are hunted down by all the various large powers, you'll all die to their hands eventually, said one of the Grand Elders. There's no need to worry about it. The Dragon Blood Legion's hearts are united. Their lives are mine, my life is theirs. What we have, we risked our lives for, and we will continue to work hard so that we can protect our family, so that we can live with dignity. This is our conviction. When others threaten our family or try to trample on our dignity, we won't hesitate to put everything on the line. Even if we die, we won't die humiliated. This gamble is quite big. One of the Grand Elders finally spoke. This Grand Elder had barely spoken at all before. Once he spoke, the other Grand Elders fell silent. It seemed they were secretly communicating. The atmosphere grew a bit tense. All right, let's bet. Opportunity exists within danger. Who can say what will come in the future? The barbarian mammoth race was able to bet everything, so why can't our Martial Heaven Alliance do the same? The great era has already come. If we still held back, what would we be waiting for? I approve of this gamble, said one of the Grand Elders. I also approve, said another Grand Elder. The third Grand Elder bitterly smiled. Little Yen will definitely approve, so even if I opposed, it would be useless. It would just offend the one who gave us his wine. I wouldn't do such a foolish thing. I also approve. The four Grand Elders suddenly laughed. Long Chen was lost, but Chu Jianying was pleasantly surprised. All right, we've cast our votes. We've decided that the reward will be yours. Congratulations. Yen Nantian walked over to Long Chen and patted his shoulder with a smile. Senior, I don't really want that reward. I don't like owing favors. There's no need for you to owe us a favor. This is the reward you ought to gain for getting first place on the Devil Slaughter rankings and winning karmic luck for the entire righteous path. We were selfish for not giving it to you, but now we've thought it through. It's yours, said Yen Nantian. Don't try to trick me. I just heard you say that you were betting. You're treating me as a gambling chip. I don't want to be used. What gambling chip? Stop being so sensitive and come. Yen Nantian suddenly grabbed Long Chen's shoulder and pushed him backward. A black and white channel appeared in the air there, sucking him in. Long Chen had no ability to resist. He flew through the channel, which brought him deeper into the palace. He quickly arrived at the temple that the four Grand Elders had blocked him at before. The gates opened like the mouth of a beast to devour Long Chen and then slammed shut. There was no longer any sound that could be heard from within. However, just before the gates closed, Lingshan vaguely heard Long Chen's startled cry as if he had encountered something frightening. What? Lingshan looked in stunned silence at the closed temple gates. She felt like Long Chen had encountered something bad. It didn't seem like a reward. Lingshan, there's no need to be jealous. You will also get your share of this reward. Yen Nantian smiled at Lingshan. Me? But I haven't done anything for the Martial Heaven Alliance, and my ranking on the Devil Slaughter rankings, it has nothing to do with those. With your talent and potential, you are qualified to obtain this reward. Long Chen is naturally more qualified, but this little fellow is too dangerous. One mistake and we'll lose our investment and cause a calamity for the Martial Heaven Alliance, so it's a gamble. However, you are different. We can see that you sincerely wish to stay in the Martial Heaven Alliance, and you will one day take Jianying's position. Do you not understand the goal behind Jianying giving you her sword? Asked Yen Nantian. Lingshan took a few shocked steps back. She covered her mouth, staring at Chu Jianying. Master, Chu Jianying smiled and said, Foolish child, there's nothing to be shocked about. This world will be yours in the future. Old-timers like us are only green leaves, while youngsters like you will be the main characters of that world. But I'm much weaker than Long Chen. I'm even weaker than the Xiang Yunfei that he killed. She was an independent cultivator who had never once thought that she would be the heir to the head of the Martial Heaven Alliance. She felt like she was in a dream, but also uneasy and panicked. That little fellow Long Chen shouldn't even be mentioned. His heart is not with the Martial Heaven Alliance. No one can control him. Meanwhile, you are someone suited to be the heir of the Martial Heaven Alliance. Don't worry, before you've grown up, you will have your master and these Grand Elders supporting you. Long Chen will also help, so don't feel too much pressure. Chu Jianying gently brushed Chu Jianying's hair back. Only once Lingshan heard this did she feel slightly more at ease. There are two priceless treasures in this temple. Long Chen will obtain one, and you will obtain one. Do you know what it is? Asked Yen Nantian. Lingshan shook her head. It's the move that Xiang Yunfei used against Long Chen. A Paragon art? Correct, a Paragon art, and a very powerful one at that. In truth, a Paragon art is something Xiang Yunfei was fundamentally unable to control. He was only using a rudimentary form of one and was unable to bring out the Paragon art's full power. He also isn't a human, so despite his talent, when it comes to using magical arts and the like, he still had some major flaws. He relied entirely on his bloodline power and the power of his ancestors to use it. It was fundamentally, it doesn't matter. You will understand once you cultivate it, said Nantian. Yes. Yi Lingshan respectfully kowtowed toward Chu Jianying and the 4 Grand Elders. She knew that this reward was a show of their trust in her. Chu Jianying and the 4 Grand Elders smiled. This child was very good and was capable of holding great responsibility. They hadn't misjudged her. It was just regretful that they didn't feel the same way about Longchen. Yi Lingshan walked into another temple at the back. When she was in front of it, she suddenly heard Yan Nanshan's voice. This back door is the life gate. This one over here is the death gate. Longchen and Yi Lingshan had entered the temple through different entrances, leaving behind only Chu Jianying and the 4 Grand Elders in the palace. Granduncle Master, what made you change your mind? Asked Chu Jianying. She was very pleasantly surprised that Longchen had been allowed to enter the temple. The 4 Grand Elders had previously refused to allow Longchen to enter, so now Chu Jianying was surprised that they would change their minds. Considering how experienced they were, they wouldn't act based on personal relationships. Their actions were made entirely with the Martial Heaven Alliance at heart, so it was basically impossible to change their minds. When they had refused Longchen the first time, she had already given up hope of Longchen getting the reward. If I said it was because of his wine, would you believe me? Laughed one of the Grand Elders. Have you been infected by that little fellow? Pay attention to your decorum, scolded the less carefree Grand Elder. What decorum? Do people with 1 foot in the grave need to care so much? Replied the Grand Elder. In the end, it was Yan Nantian who answered Chu Jianying. Actually, we truly did not wish Longchen to obtain this priceless inheritance because he's too wild. He's a double-sided sword, and we could easily be injured ourselves. So Longchen's essentially doesn't meet the requirements to obtain this inheritance. However, the battle changed our thinking. It can be said that Longchen has moved us. You finally recognize Longchen's talented combat power? I said from the start that he was definitely the Martial Heaven Alliance's #1 genius, and that if he was raised properly no. Yan Nantian interrupted her, shaking his head. Longchen's talent is something we know better than you. What we care about isn't his talent, and the same is true of Yi Lingshan. What we care about is their inner hearts. Yi Lingshan has experienced the lowest and cruelest level of the cultivation world and still did not lose her original heart. Such a person's mental quality is extremely powerful. She will never give up. That's the most fundamental quality a leader needs. As for everything else, if she lacks it, we can nourish it. But a powerful will is partially innate and partially forced out by cruel reality. Such quality is difficult to nourish. Both Longchen and Yi Lingshan have this quality, but one is a wild horse, while the other is a steady ox. Yi Lingshan is someone very worthy of trust, and she will always be a member of the Martial Heaven Alliance. But Longchen is a wild horse that no one can control. The reason we changed our minds is because of his fight with Xiang Yunfei, but it's not due to the talent and potential he showed. It was because he was willing to risk his life for a single promise. Yes, Longchen is dangerous, but the greater the danger, the greater the possible benefits. In the end, we decided that this gamble had some chance of succeeding, so we wanted to use up what little we have right here. This was a gamble. With the great era here, the Grand Elders were willing to bet all their chips. Whether they would win or lose would be decided in the future. Heavenly Fate Island went too far this time. Are we going to do anything to them? Asked Chu Jianying suddenly, her expression cold. This matter definitely had Heavenly Fate Island behind it. There was no one else who could have managed to calculate things to this extent and make things go so smoothly. Yan Nantian said, "It seems Heavenly Fate Island is unwilling to stay quiet. They want to stand out in the Great Era. However, this time, they tried to incite conflict between us, the ancient races, and the ancient family alliance. Their calculations were truly accurate. Longchen clearly saw through the clues and knew their intentions but still jumped into the trap. Even if he was falling for Heavenly Fate Island's trap, he had to kill DXN as vengeance for those 2 children. It's also because of this that our decision changed. This Longchen, once he decides on something, no one can change his mind. However, that's not necessarily a bad thing. With the Great Era, heavenly geniuses will rise in droves. No one can say which one will dominate the others. Before the final results are in, it truly is foolish for Heavenly Fate Island to act like this. But let them be for now. The ancient races and ancient family alliance also know the truth. Let's wait to see how they react. As for DXIN's mother, she's a hidden danger. But worrying about her is meaningless as well. We can only take things step by step. The corrupt path is also starting to stir. Jianying, don't give them any opportunities. Longchen's rise has actually split a great deal of their attention from the Martial Heaven Alliance. All their attention is concentrated on Longchen, so we have more time to prepare. Make a large trip to all the powerful forces in our alliance. Make sure to make the opportunists properly stand at attention. Use the news of Longchen killing Xiang Yunfei and the fact that the four of us have come out. Those slippery little fellows either have to fall in line, or they should scram over to Pill Valley. Don't give them any time for hesitation. If you don't give them a vicious blow, they'll continue to be indecisive, and that's not good for the Martial Heaven Alliance's unity. Various large powers are starting to revive. The Great Era is the best era but also the worst era. Many great figures will rise and contend for supremacy. There will definitely be a rain of blood throughout the continent. If no sovereign rises, the chaotic battle will not end. If we don't win over people's hearts at this time, it will be too late. Yes, I'll prepare and leave immediately, said Chu Jianying. Then go. Remember that you must be tough this time. Don't give them a chance to haggle or compromise. They can decide for themselves whether they're loyal to the Martial Heaven Alliance or Pill Valley. If they don't give a direct reply within 3 days, they can be expelled from the Martial Heaven Alliance. They will no longer be under our protection, said Yen Nantian. Chu Jianying left. This time, she was filled with confidence. With the support of the 4 Grand Elders, she would no longer need to be polite. Fuck, what kind of damn place is this? Why is it so sinister? Longchen let out a startled cry. It was pitch black inside the gate. He almost thought that he had returned to the netherworld. The surroundings were filled with an air of death. Those old fellows wouldn't have conned me, right? They didn't open the gate to the netherworld and toss me in again, did they? Longchen muttered to himself as he carefully walked forward. Stop wandering around. I don't have much time. An aged voice rang out from the end of the channel. Longchen quickened his footsteps. After a few turns, he saw a large gate consisting of a mass of light. It was an illusory gate. He couldn't see what was beyond. However, he did sense a strong air of death coming from within it. In front of this illusory gate was an elder sitting cross-legged. It was unknown what era his robes came from, but they looked ancient and strange. Senior, Longchen bowed. No need for courtesy. What kind of Paragon art do you want to learn? The elder raised his head to look at Longchen. He got straight to the point. Being stared at by the elder, Longchen couldn't help but jump. Only once he got closer did he realize that this elder had no face. He was translucent, and his entire body was formed from a strange energy. He had no physical body. This energy was not necessarily a soul or a yuan spirit. It was an extremely ancient energy that Longchen had never seen before. Speak. What kind of Paragon art do you want to learn? Repeated the elder. Only now did Longchen learn that the so-called Priceless Supreme Treasure was actually a Paragon art. He couldn't help saying, I want to learn all kinds of them, the more the better. I'm very hardworking, so I'm sure I'll be all right. Senior, do you want some wine? I have some very good wine here. Longchen took out some wine as a bribe. That elder shook his head. I've been guarding the death gate for 34,000 years, but it's the first time someone has come to give me a gift. However, it's too late. I am originally an ancestral spirit. Now my energy is almost exhausted, and I can only open a single door the slightest bit. Hence, don't get any funny ideas. This gate can bring you to another world, so choose the type of energy you are most skilled in. That will be the foundation for the Paragon art, and that will increase your chances of success. Ah, so there's a chance of failure. The death gate has a 90% chance of failure. Failure signifies death. The death chi here is the resentment left by the geniuses that failed. Did you not know? Asked the elder. I didn't. No one said anything about it. Then where's the life gate? I'll just enter from the life gate, said Longchen. You're already gone through the death gate. You can't go back. So choose the best Paragon art for you, and do it quickly as I don't have much time, warned the elder. Wasn't this an absolute con? They hadn't even told him anything about this. Although he was angry, this elder in front of him was very strict. He had to calm himself down so that he could properly cultivate the Paragon art. Xiang Yunfei's Paragon art had truly been powerful. If Longchen also possessed a Paragon art, it definitely wouldn't have been so difficult to beat him. Senior, are there any lightning Paragon arts? Probed Longchen. In terms of physical strength, he had the 5-star battle armor. In terms of flame energy, he had the World Annihilation Flame Lotus. He was only lacking a corresponding powerful move for his Thunder Force. There is, but I'd advise you to pick another, answered the elder. Why? Asked Longchen. Because the odds of failure with the death gate are already very high, and failure essentially means death. As for the lightning Paragon art, amongst all the Paragon arts here, it is the most berserk. Other Paragon arts have a 90% chance of death, but the lightning Paragon art has 99% of death, said the elder. It was that exaggerated? Longchen shivered. The space here was filled with the air of death. Just how many experts had fallen here? Those qualified to obtain this inheritance had to be the best of their generation. But even people like them had a 90% chance of failure. This was absolutely monstrous. However, considering that he had Lei Long, he felt some confidence. I'll choose the lightning Paragon art, said Longchen firmly. A lightning Paragon art was what he needed the most. Follow me. The elder didn't try to change Longchen's mind. He slowly rose and stepped into the illusory gate. Longchen hastily followed. Once he was through, he found that he was stepping on empty space. It was like he was walking through space. There were some faint stars in the distance, and they seemed very minute. The elder formed hand seals, and the stars in front of him moved. A spatial channel appeared in front of him. Take 19 steps forward and then turn right. Good luck. Longchen followed the elder's instructions, going through the channel that he had opened. He carefully counted his footsteps. On the 19th step, he turned to look back at the elder. He jumped in shock. The elder's legs had vanished. He was blowing away like dust in the wind. Then the elder's arms faded. When his hands disappeared, this entire space began to rumble. It seemed like it was about to crumble. Longchen had no time to consider his options. He took a step to the right. The space in front of him twisted, and he appeared in a desolate world. This world was barren. Craggy stones littered the ground and continued beyond the horizon. This world could not be more desolate. There wasn't the slightest air of life. The sky was filled with mist and thunderous rumbling. Lightning twisted and turned in the sky. Its light was what illuminated the ground. He looked around, but he didn't see anything else. The only thing he could hear was the booming of thunder. Hey, where's the person who's supposed to teach me the Paragon art? Longchen shouted into the void. The mist in the sky surged and split open. What the fuck? Only now did Longchen see that the lightning within the mist was endless lightning beasts. They had been sleeping, and the booming thunder was their snoring. His shout had startled them awake, and they roared furiously as they charged at him. A sea of lightning charged down. They were of various colors and forms, and Longchen's hair immediately stood on end. He felt an intense sensation of danger. Thunder force covered his body as he smashed a giant flaming bird. That giant bird exploded, but a wild burst of flames threw Longchen off. He killed more of these lightning beasts, and shockingly, they didn't just possess thunder force but also other kinds of energy that made it difficult for him to deal with them. Hey, I'm your ancestor, and I've come to bring you out of here. Sleeping all day is boring, right? Don't you want to see the bright and vibrant world? There are plenty of beautiful ladies outside. Well, you wouldn't understand that part. But in any case, I came here to save you, so don't treat me as an enemy. Long Chen suddenly recalled the mammoth primordial spirit beasts that Xiang Yunfei had summoned. If he could subdue these lightning beasts, wouldn't this Paragon art have the same ability? However, his shouting was ineffective. These lightning beasts couldn't understand him, and they continued to attack fiercely. The most irritating thing was that after destroying them, they would quickly reform and attack once more. It seemed that they had undying bodies. To be sure he hadn't misread the situation, he hunted down a certain lightning leopard, killing it 7 times in a row. It always recovered to full power in a short moment. However, he also realized that these lightning beasts were most likely connected to this world. Within this special world, these lightning beasts would never die. He couldn't be bothered with them. He charged past, wanting to see this world. What was going on here? Where was the Paragon art? Wherever he went, the void would erupt and slumbering lightning beasts would be startled awake and attack. More and more of them appeared until there was a sea of lightning beasts chasing Long Chen. This sea was constantly growing larger. Fuck, what is going on? Is this world a giant hornet's nest? Long Chen turned back and his scalp turned numb. Against this many lightning beasts, even if they couldn't kill him, they could exhaust him to death. As Long Chen fled, he found that the lightning beasts were endless. After 6 hours, he didn't even know how many tens of thousands of miles he had traveled. In any case, the lightning beasts filled this world. Well, there are already so many, so getting a few more shouldn't be a problem. Let's see just how big this world is. Clenching his teeth, Long Chen ignored the mass of lightning beasts behind him and continued forward. He flew for 3 days and 3 nights. Although there was no way to determine day and night here, he knew it had been at least 72 hours. At this moment, he finally noticed something odd. In the distance, there was a giant pillar of light. He was delighted to see that, and he rushed over. However, when he got closer, he realized this was no pillar of light but a strange hourglass-like object. A vast body of water had appeared here, and there was also a vast body of water above. They were mixing, with the water above flowing down and the water down flowing up. It formed a marvelous cycle. What pure lightning energy! Long Chen was stunned by this discovery. This sea of water was so large that it was impossible to describe. Even after flying for several hours, he hadn't reached an end. There were terrifying lightning fluctuations coming from it, and it was actually entirely composed of the purest lightning essence. At this moment, he felt Lei Long roar within him. It felt a fatal attraction to this lightning sea. Oh, those lightning beasts have stopped? Long Chen suddenly found that the lightning beasts had stopped. They were just roaring at a certain distance. All of a sudden, a giant head stretched out of the lightning sea. Following it, an enormous body appeared within it. A terrifying pressure shook this world. It was actually a giant drake. A claw larger than a mountain smashed toward Long Chen. Even before it arrived, Long Chen felt like he was being crushed. He felt like he couldn't even move. Boom. Long Chen immediately summoned the divine ring and 5-star battle armor. Lightning also appeared around him, and he slashed a lightning blade at the giant claw. Long Chen was sent flying, his entire body feeling like it was about to collapse. This drake was too powerful. Even Nether Passage experts wouldn't be able to take it lightly. Hey, I'm not here to fight. I came to learn the Paragon art, shouted Long Chen upon seeing the drake attack again. Unexpectedly, the giant drake really did stop. It coldly stared at Long Chen. Our Morning Dao lightning field's contract with the human race has already come to an end. We no longer have any association, so scram. The giant drake was actually able to speak human words, but its voice was filled with contempt. It couldn't be such a con, right? If the contract is up, let's start a new contract. You wouldn't make me take the whole trip here for nothing, right? Long Chen naturally wouldn't leave just like that. What kind of joke was this supposed to be? He had nowhere to go. If you want to continue the contract, then fine. As long as you can place your spiritual seal on the core of this world, you can take away the Paragon Art's rune, said the giant drake. This old drake had to have lived for countless years, or there would have been no way it could speak so smoothly and even fill it with such emotion. Of course, that emotion was disdain. Longchen looked at the giant hourglass and truly did see an image at the center of it. That was most likely the Paragon Arts rune. Then I won't stand on courtesy. Holding a lightning blade, Longchen took a single step and seemed to teleport, lightning flickering around his body. Longchen actually used the celestial lightning body blink to flash by the giant drake. Childish. The giant drake snorted with disdain. Its giant tail suddenly slammed into the lightning sea. A huge wave erupted from the lightning sea, blocking Longchen's path. Split the heavens 6. As if he had long since expected such resistance, Longchen slashed with his lightning blade. A giant cut appeared in the huge wave, and without hesitation, Longchen charged through. Longchen was thankful that Split the Heavens had such immense penetrative power. Even this kind of giant attack could be easily pierced by it. Once he was past the wave, he heard the giant drake's roar. Clearly, it hadn't expected Longchen to have such power. It gave chase. Its body was huge, but it was incredibly quick. However, Longchen was also fast. Now that he was ahead, the drake couldn't catch up. Suddenly, the lightning sea erupted, and one giant drake after another appeared out of it, blocking Longchen. When they opened their mouths, swords of lightning pierced through the air at him. Each of the lightning swords was like a long mountain range. Booming sounds echoed through the air. Seeing these attacks, Longchen summoned lightning wings on his back. His speed increased again, and he shot past the lightning swords. At this time, Longchen was surprised to see 9 of these giant drakes. They were all attacking him at the same time. Longchen's heart pounded hard. At this time, the elder's words resurfaced in his mind. Other inheritances had a 90% chance of failure, but this place had 99%. To be blocked by 9 powerful drakes comparable to Nether Passage experts, let alone Longchen, even Nether Passage experts would have to submit. If it was just one, perhaps Longchen would have some urge to fight. But with 9 of them, taking them head-on would be suicide. Based on that drake's words, as long as he could obtain that Paragon art rune, he would be able to establish a new contract. In other words, if he obtained it, he would pass. These drakes wouldn't be able to attack him any longer. He pushed the celestial lightning body blink to its peak. He was like a phantom flitting through their attacks. The 9 drakes were launching a furious barrage of attacks. It was like 9 giants were attacking a mosquito, but this mosquito was too fast. They couldn't hit Longchen, and it made them roar furiously. Huge waves surged out of the lightning sea as they did everything in their power to stop Longchen. However, the 6th form of Split the Heavens pierced the waves easily. Rather than stopping Longchen, the waves ended up hindering their own speed. Longchen was rapidly approaching the core. As he got closer to the core, he became even more shocked. This place that looked like an hourglass was where 2 sources of lightning energy were intermingling. Both sides looked identical. The lightning energy formed a mysterious cycle. At the core, there was a giant image that looked like a gate with a pair of wings and a spear. Longchen had no time to examine the 2 sources of lightning, nor did he have time to carefully look at this rune. He charged toward it. The 9 drakes were unable to stop him. He was too fast and nimble, infuriating them. Just as Longchen was starting to smile, he suddenly felt his heart drop. An intense sensation of danger welled up from within him. His intuition built up from years of walking the line between life and death made him stop and retreat at full speed. Boom! Just as he retreated, a silver claw smashed down from the sky, crashing down right where he had been. Another giant drake had appeared. Its entire body was silver, and it had come out of the lightning source in the sky. It was dazzling, looking as if it had been made entirely from silver. Longchen's hair rose. He felt a fatal threat from this silver drake. His intuition told him that its power far surpassed his imagination. The silver drake coldly looked at Longchen. Human, this Morning Dao Lightning Field's contract with the human race is done. We will no longer be your subordinates, and you are no longer qualified to enslave us. Go back and tell your elders that 8,000 years ago, our contract reached an end. Both sides can now walk their own paths. If any of you get any ideas about this morning Dao lightning field, don't blame us for not being polite. What? That elder didn't tell me any of this before I entered. Now I can't even obtain the Paragon art, and I can't go back. This is a giant con. Long Chen was speechless. Although Long Chen was already used to his bad luck, this was too much, wasn't it? It was his own allies that had sent him here to his death, and they hadn't even given him a way out. Then you can just die here. The 9 drakes lined up behind Long Chen, while in front of him was the unimaginably terrifying silver drake. Sorry, I can't die yet. Can I ask, if I obtain that Paragon art rune, will you stop trying to kill me? That's correct. As long as you can obtain the rune's recognition, you will obtain the recognition of the Morning Dao lightning field. We naturally wouldn't be able to kill you. However, don't be so conceited. After being enslaved once by your human race, I won't give you a chance. If you try anything, I will immediately kill you. A vast aura from the silver drake locked onto Long Chen. Thunder force gathered from every direction, and this world became enveloped by silver lightning runes. Long Chen was caught in a terrifying domain. Berserk silver lightning surrounded Long Chen. Each lightning rune was like a sharp blade, possessing enough power to destroy a mountain. Long Chen was in a sea of millions and millions of those silver runes. It seemed like as long as the silver drake wished it, he would be blown apart. That was an absolute power that could not be resisted. The difference between them was too immense. Die or scram. You choose, said the silver drake coldly. I choose neither. I choose that rune. Lightning exploded out of Long Chen. It was sacred and divine. Those silver lightning runes, which had originally locked down this area securely, suddenly fled like frightened rabbits. Divine lightning. It was God amongst lightning, so all other lightning had to make way for it. As soon as Long Chen summoned this divine lightning, he broke the silver drake's domain. He vanished, and in 3 blinks, he appeared in front of the Paragon art rune. However, he had just gotten there when a giant tail whipped toward him. As a result, Long Chen felt like a hammer had struck his body. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, and his bones shattered. Long Chen did his best to stabilize himself in the air, but his heart turned cold. Even though his divine lightning had shattered the silver drake's domain, the difference between them was too great. Furthermore, the silver drake's body was gigantic. There was no way for him to dodge it. Taking a deep breath, Long Chen summoned Lei Long. His primal chaos space hadn't recovered yet, and if he was injured again, it would be dangerous. At the same time, Long Chen prepared the heaven-flipping seal. He was planning on having Lei Long entangle the silver drake and then smash it with the heaven-flipping seal. That was his final trump card. If it failed, he would be doomed. His eyes were locked on the silver drake. He didn't have much confidence even in this final trump card. The silver drake was too powerful. Compared to it, he was like a speck of dust. Wait a moment. Just as Long Chen was preparing to attack, the silver drake suddenly spoke. Tell me, how did you raise this lightning beast of yours? How had he raised it? Long Chen suddenly had a thought. However, his expression didn't change. It's just an ordinary lightning beast. But each time I undergo tribulation, I use the lightning to feed it. In my last tribulation, it helped me through my lightning tribulation by devouring a divine lightning rune. So it possesses the power of divine lightning. What? Do you want it? Just give up. I won't let you devour it no matter what. The silver drake ignored Long Chen's threat. Instead, it quietly looked at Lei Long. After a moment, it said, I'm willing to go through a business transaction with you. I can let you obtain the Paragon art rune, but you must satisfy one of my conditions. What condition? Long Chen smiled. His chance had come. This lightning dragon of yours possesses a kind of energy I want. I don't need to devour it. I just need 80% of its energy. Don't even think about it. Long Chen directly refused. The silver drake was enraged. Do you believe me when I say I can just kill you and devour it? All its scales lit up, and thunder force boomed. A terrifying energy once more locked onto Longchen. I don't believe you. 1. It's hard to say if you could even kill me. 2. Even if you kill me, Lei Long will explode and erase its divine nature before its death, so you won't obtain anything. 3. And this is the most important thing, Lei Long is not my subordinate but a companion I can entrust my life to. I told you not to get any ideas about it. Although you're powerful, I naturally have my own trump card since I dared to come here, said Longchen indifferently. Arrogant human, since you're so foolish, I can only kill you. The silver drake raised its claw. Hey, wait a moment. I'm not done talking. Longchen hastily waved his hands. What else is there to say? The silver drake's claw stopped in the air. Lei Long is my companion, so this condition of yours is no good. However, I have an even better condition for you. What are you talking about? Well, can you first shrink down a bit? I can't even see your whole body, and it's very awkward for me, probed Longchen. The silver drake was truly too big. It was so big that he had a headache just trying to see it. Not being able to see its expression was also difficult. The silver drake hesitated, but then it really did shrink down to 30,000 meters, practically identical to Lei Long. However, once it shrank, Longchen felt like he shouldn't have asked. With its power compressed, the spatial fluctuations in the surroundings grew more intense as if the void was about to explode from the pressure. Longchen almost coughed up blood. So in its small state, the silver drake was even more terrifying. But he couldn't just ask it to get bigger now. Shouldn't you hurry up with what you have to say? Shouted the silver drake. Cough, then I'll get to the point. I have some business to discuss with you. It could be said that if this business takes off, it will completely change your life. I won't hide the truth from you. I am a reincarnation of a god, and each time my power increases, I draw divine lightning that tempers me. Other people's tribulations are a drizzle, while my tribulation is a true shower. It's just that using divine lightning as a shower is a waste. That's why I always save a bit for Lei Long. You've also seen how fat and mighty Lei Long is. My intention is to have you cooperate with me. When I go through my tribulations, I will split a portion of my divine lightning with you. I should put it this way to you. Each time I undergo tribulation, the power of the divine lightning and its purity will be 10 times greater than before, maybe even 100 times greater. If you devour my companion's little bit of energy, it won't even be a snack. I can see that although you are powerful, your body is lacking that divine nature, so you are unable to become a true dragon. But if you cooperate with me, I'll constantly give you divine lightning and help you become a true dragon. How is that? Can I trust those words? The silver drake was definitely moved by this offer. The silver drake's outer appearance wasn't that different from a true dragon. It was only lacking the dragon horn. However, without the dragon horn, a drake would forever just be a larger serpent. The term drake was just in recognition of its power. It was not a true dragon. What reason do I have to trick you? This cooperation is mutually beneficial. That's a true cooperation. Longchen smiled. How do you want to cooperate? That sinister smile of Longchen ended up raising the silver drake's guard. It's very simple. Give me the Paragon art. That's a must because I need it to live longer and go through more tribulations. Otherwise, if I died before my cultivation base broke through, what would you do? Second, if I encounter some kind of amazing existence in the outside world, you have to help me handle it because if I die, it will interfere with your growth. Are you trying to get me to be a free fighter for you? The silver drake was no fool. It immediately understood Longchen's intentions. How is it free? I'm giving you such good divine lightning. It's just payment after the purchase. What a joke. Everything you've said is nonsense. You're trying to con me into being your fighter. I didn't expect a youngster like you to have such guts, sneered the silver drake. It has nothing to do with guts. You've seen Lei Long's power. Although its current power isn't as great as yours, you've been alive for countless years, while Lei Long has only existed for a few years. It's just a child now, yet it possesses such power. Let me put it to you this way. When I undergo tribulation, there really is as much divine lightning as you want. The amount of divine lightning will only be limited by how big your stomach is. This is a decision that will decide your fate. Opportunities must be grasped. That divine lightning will be the foundation from which your entire life changes. It's your chance to break out of the cocoon. Long Chen was in the midst of trying to sway the silver drake when Lei Long suddenly opened its mouth and shot out a foot-wide lightning sphere at it. That made Long Chen jump in horror. He thought that Lei Long had just attacked. However, he then quickly understood what Lei Long was doing. It was proving itself to the silver drake. The silver drake devoured the lightning sphere. As a result, a twinkle appeared in its eyes as it was stunned. How is it? Lei Long's power still isn't pure enough, but after my next tribulation, just imagine what it will be like with 10 or even 100 times the divine lightning energy. Long Chen raised his eyebrows several times seducingly. That's still unacceptable. I won't be someone else's fighter. The silver drake was extremely moved, but it had its own dignity. It was the master of the Morning Dao lightning field. How could it possibly be willing to become someone else's fighter? How could a powerful existence like you be called out to fight for nothing? Just tell your subordinates to fight and it'll be more than enough, said Long Chen, not forgetting to flatter the silver drake. All right then. But you can't go too far. Don't constantly call my subordinates out to fight for you, warned the silver drake. Of course, I'm not the kind of person to get caught in all kinds of little trouble, said Long Chen with a strange smile. Yes, when he caused trouble, it was never small. As long as the silver drake agreed, everything else would be easy. If its little brothers were suddenly losing, wouldn't it come help anyway? Hee. Thinking of how he had gained such a powerful helper, Long Chen almost shouted in joy. Fine, go brand the Paragon Art Divine Rune. As for the details, you can ask my 9 generals. The silver drake's figure vanished into the lightning sea. Clearly, that was its territory. When the silver drake vanished, leaving Long Chen with the 9 drakes, the atmosphere was a bit awkward. Come, don't just stare. We'll be one family in the future, so no need to mind about such minor things. Long Chen flicked his fingers, and 9 pearls of lightning shot toward the 9 drakes. This lightning energy was far less than what Lei Long had given the silver drake. However, the drakes were delighted and immediately devoured them. The hostility in their eyes faded. Long Chen had already come to an agreement with their boss, and they didn't have any bad opinion about it. Long Chen had already given them a taste of the benefits. Many thanks. The drakes transformed into 300-meter forms. No need to thank me. It's just my greeting gift to you all. In the future, there will definitely be larger gifts. As long as you follow me, I guarantee to get you Thunder Force dozens and even hundreds of times purer than this. You'll get more than you can even eat, promised Long Chen. Really? Of course. Your boss Dash. That's the Great Dragon King. Your Great Dragon King also won't be able to eat all of it. You'll all get more than your fill. Well, even explaining it wouldn't mean anything. You'll know in the future. Following me is definitely your wisest decision. That's right, I'm Long Chen, so you can call me Brother Long. I definitely won't forget you when the time comes. Long Chen patted his chest confidently. Long Chen was delighted. Each of these drakes was about as strong as he was. When combined, who could compete with him? Brother Long, I'm Dragon One. There are 9 of us. You probably can't differentiate us, so just call a number when you need us, said one of the lightning drakes. Clearly, they had been won over by Long Chen. Furthermore, considering that Long Chen had come to an agreement with their Great Dragon King, the 2 of them were essentially 2 figures on the same level. They naturally became respectful. Brother Long, don't you want to absorb that Paragon Art Rune? We'll teach you how to do it, said one of the drakes courteously. Accompanied by the 9 drakes, Long Chen slowly approached the core of the hourglass. It was where the hourglass was at its thinnest, its center. Through Dragon One's introduction, Long Chen learned that this Morning Dao lightning field was its own minor world. It was the result of a supreme expert separating part of a major world, leaving only the purest Thunder Force inside. However, no energy could exist on its own, including Thunder Force. Thunder Force itself was also split into different kinds. The greatest attribute that differentiated them was actually yin and yang. This was something that Long Chen had never encountered before. He had always thought that lightning was the most supreme yang existence in the world. He had never heard of lightning also being yin. Amongst the yin and yang lightnings, there were over 10,000 different kinds of thunder force, each one with its own specialties. The lightning sources of the hourglass were one yin and one yang. The two energies were constantly mixing. This place was the root of this minor world. Long Chen couldn't help being shocked. Just what kind of existence had been capable of creating such a world? From Dragon One, he learned that they had been living for hundreds of thousands of years. They had had 8 masters before, and after the last master died, they gained their full freedom. No one else had come to the Morning Dao lightning field. They had been peacefully living here, but unfortunately, their cultivation bases had already reached their limits. They couldn't grow any stronger. It seemed that this world's laws were restricting them. When Long Chen asked who the master of this world had been, they shook their heads. The master of this world was the master of the Paragon art, but this world had no master now. They had a contractual rune in their heads that connected them to the Paragon art rune. Even the Silver Lightning Drake had that contractual rune and was under its effects. After the contract had been dispelled, the effect of those contractual runes had faded, allowing them to grow stronger beyond the contract. Hearing all this, Long Chen cursed inside. How unlucky had he been? It was only in his generation that these lightning drakes had become so wild. Originally, the reason why he had dared to challenge the Lightning Paragon art was because he had some confidence in Lei Long compared to other experts on the same level as him. He would definitely have an advantage. However, when he got here, he found that these drakes were no longer restricted by the contractual runes and had grown far stronger than they had been meant to be. The difficulty had multiplied by many times from when the last people had attempted to inherit this Paragon art. That silver drake in particular was something that Long Chen estimated not even Nether Passage experts would necessarily be a match for. How was he, a soul transformation expert, supposed to subdue it? Brother Long, there are 3 parts to this Paragon art rune. The gate part refers to the gate of the Morning Dao lightning field. As long as you place your spiritual seal on it, you can control it. When you return to your world, you can open the channel to the Morning Dao lightning field, said Dragon One. So this was the essence of a Paragon art. Long Chen thought of how Xiang Yunfei had also connected himself to another world with his Paragon art. This is the Sundering Lightning Heavenly Wings and the Wild Lightning Soul Battle Spear. Both of them are for use in combat and extremely powerful. However, controlling them is very difficult, said Dragon One. Many thanks. I'll try it. Long Chen reached out and pressed his palm against the Paragon art rune. The thunder force inside his body circulated. Rumbling rang out, and the entire Morning Dao lightning field shook. The gate image lit up. Long Chen's Yuan spirit suddenly came out of his head. It was forming hand seals. That wasn't something that he was controlling. It was the Paragon art rune that was transmitting information to him, and he was simply following it. As he formed hand seals, a giant gate appeared behind him. The gate grew larger and larger, and lightning runes flowed around it. It was both sacred and wild. How is the gate so big? This is just your first time, exclaimed Dragon One. According to reason, the first time someone opened this spatial gate, it would be very small and unstable. It would be unusable. But Long Chen had summoned such a giant gate on his first try. What the drakes didn't know was that this spatial gate scale was based on the strength of the user's Yuan spirit. When Xiang Yunfei had used his Paragon art, it had taken him a long time to activate it. However, as Long Chen's Yuan spirit was far stronger, his activation time was much shorter. Opening this gate wasn't very difficult. As long as his Yuan spirit still had energy, it would be easy. The void cracked. The huge gate began to slowly open. Brother Long, you can't open the gate here, shouted the drakes. Why not? This gate connects to the Morning Dao lightning field. We're already here. Opening this gate will break the laws here. You can only open this gate in your world, explained Dragon One. These hand seals are what connects you to the Morning Dao lightning field. Try reversing the hand seals, and you'll find that your gate will allow us to come out to your world, explained another drake. Longchen nodded. This Paragon art was really interesting, but it wasn't too difficult. It was easy to control. Dragon 1 seemed to see what he was thinking and said, "Opening the gate isn't difficult. The difficult part is the speed at which you can open it and the scale. My guess is the reason you can activate it so quickly is due to the divine lightning and your Yuan spirit." The previous humans found it much harder to open this gate. Another reason it was more difficult was because at that time, the gate was connected to our contractual runes, and we would naturally resist as we wouldn't want a weak master. Many humans died like that because their Yuan spirits were unable to suppress us. But now our contractual runes have faded, so it's naturally easier to just open the gate. You should try the Sundering Lightning Heavenly Wings and the Wild Lightning Soul Battle Spear. Those are the true attacking Paragon arts. Cultivating them is very difficult. Then what do I do? Asked Longchen. Merge your Yuan spirit with the Paragon art rune. Your Yuan spirit should enter a special space where you can comprehend how to use the Paragon arts. It will take you time to fully understand their profundities, said Dragon 1. How much time does it take? Quite a bit. If you're fast, 2 to 3 years. If you're slow, 5 or 6 years. That bit of time is nothing to us, but we know it's longer to humans, said Dragon 1. These 9 drakes were all very intelligent. They had followed multiple generations of human masters along with their silver drake king. They had some understanding of humans. That's too long. I can't wait that long. Longchen shook his head. No matter how strong the Paragon art was, he couldn't use 2 years on it. I have another method. Longchen pressed his hand against the Paragon art rune, and the lightning dragon mark on his arm lit up. Lei Long flowed down his arm and into the rune. Haha, I really am a genius, laughed Longchen, extremely pleased with himself. You're having your lightning beast learn the Paragon art? The drakes were stunned. It's an innate lightning spirit, so cultivating lightning arts is easy for it. For it to learn it is the same as me learning it, so won't that be much simpler? Longchen smiled brightly. Are you not afraid of it one day growing stronger than you and betraying you? It might even kill you, said Dragon 1. Betray me? No, that's absolutely impossible. There will be no betrayal between us. It won't betray me and I won't betray it. When your king wanted to devour it, to tell the truth, I wouldn't allow it even if I died here. Lei Long can die for me and I can die for it. It's not a lightning beast and it's not a tool. It's a comrade I can trust with my life, said Longchen. The 9 drakes didn't say anything, but there were large waves in their hearts. They were tools created by experts, and they were born to be used. In fact, this entire Morning Dao lightning field existed to be used. The successive generations of masters they had also only viewed them as tools, so they naturally disliked the human race. However, they couldn't help feeling that Longchen was different. Suddenly, space trembled, and light came from the Paragon art rune. Longchen's expression changed as he received a message from Lei Long. Within the rune was a terrifying divine pressure that Lei Long couldn't resist. Longchen hastily pressed his hands against the rune, and his Yuan spirit charged into it. Within the lightning sea, the silver drake slowly opened its eyes and watched as Longchen's Yuan spirit left his body, leaving behind an empty body. It muttered to himself, either he's a genius, or he's a remarkably alike idiot. With his Yuan spirit gone, any of those lightning drakes could kill his physical body without the slightest effort. Then they could kill his Yuan spirit as well. What they didn't know was that Longchen had the 9-star Hegemon body art and its sharp senses toward malice. He had the confidence to do something like this. Moreover, these drakes had no reason to kill him. He also did this on purpose to show the drakes that he trusted them. Would they still not help him upon seeing this trust? 3 days later, the Paragon art rune suddenly dimmed. Longchen's eyes opened, and there was lightning in his eyes. Haha, the Paragon art is mine, laughed Longchen. Longchen laughed with confidence and delight. Brother Long, have you really learned to control the Paragon arts so quickly? The 9 drakes were astounded. They had been standing guard here the whole time. Hee, Lei Long has already finished learning it. For my Yuan spirit to learn it as well will still take some time, but everyone, thank you. Long Chen cupped his fists. Lei Long was a manifestation of lightning. For it to learn a lightning art was simple. Once it learned it, with their spirits connected, Long Chen would also be able to learn it quickly. The best part, though, was that when cultivating within the rune, Lei Long had absorbed a huge amount of thunder force from it. Lei Long's quality didn't necessarily change, but now it had practically a limitless reserve of energy. Long Chen knew that this energy was left for those inheriting this Paragon art. Only when you possessed enough thunder force could you unleash this art. You're going to leave now? The silver drake also appeared. Yes. I still have many things to do in the outside world. Don't worry, I remember our agreement. I always keep my promises. Long Chen nodded. Alright, we've never really trusted a human, so hopefully you won't disappoint us, said the silver drake. Time will tell. Long Chen nodded. After forming new hand seals, faint lightning runes appeared flowing around his fingers, and a 30-meter gate appeared in front of him. It was much smaller than the giant gate he had made at the beginning. However, this time, there were no intense fluctuations when the lightning gate appeared. Everyone will quickly see each other again. Long Chen cupped his fists and then stepped through the lightning gate. As soon as he entered, the gate closed and vanished. The scene in front of Long Chen changed. He had reappeared in that sinister passage filled with the air of death. However, the elder that had guided him had already vanished. That elder had been an ancient heroic expert. It had used up its last bit of energy and had now fully vanished. It had been nothing more than the slightest discarnate soul of an expert from the ancient era. Their entire existence was supported by the faith energy of their descendants. If the sacrifices offered to them weren't enough or the faith energy wasn't pure enough, they would dissipate sooner or later. That made Long Chen sigh inside. Both good people and bad people had things that they wanted to protect in their lives. Despite already being dead, this spirit had still been protecting his descendants. So bad people also had a good side. But that good side was built over other people's suffering. Long Chen followed the channel until he reached a large gate. This gate was not the gate from which he had entered. He looked back after going through this gate and saw a large immortal character above it. It was the life character. He went around the temple to the gate that he had entered, and as expected, he saw a giant death character. Long Chen immediately returned to the palace, filled with rage. As soon as he entered, he saw Chu Jianying and the 4 grand elders looking at Lingshan with pleasantly surprised expressions. Long Chen, you're back? Nantian was shocked to see Long Chen walk in. You old bastard, were you trying to calm me to death? You sent me into the death gate? Spit out the wine I gave you. Raged Long Chen. He moved to throttle Nantian. Long Chen, don't be rude. Long Chen's actions made Chu Jianying jump, and she hastily blocked him. Even then, Long Chen furiously said, Old fellow, do you dare to con me a bit more? That death gate had a 90% chance of death. Why would you harm me? Haha, youngsters shouldn't be so temperamental. Nantian didn't get angry. He smiled faintly. That's easy for you to say. Do you want to try taking my place? Not only did you send me through the death gate, but the contract was already up. There wasn't even a 10% chance of surviving. Roared Long Chen. Long Chen, stop shouting. Explain what happened in detail, said Chu Jianying. It really pisses me off. I almost got conned to death. Long Chen explained what had happened in the Morning Dao lightning field. When they heard that the contract there had already come to an end and that the lightning beasts had already escaped the restrictions of the Paragon arts runes, they jumped in shock. In the end, Long Chen had used Lei Long's power to sway the other side, obtaining the Paragon art rune. It truly had been dangerous. The slightest mistake and he would have died. First of all, we really didn't know that such a thing would occur. According to reason, if the Paragon art rune lost its effect, the entire Morning Dao lightning field should have collapsed. Although the death gate had a 90% chance of death, with your power, It wasn't that dangerous, which was why we left the death gate to you. Nantian smiled bitterly. He really didn't know what to say about Long Chen's luck. With his power, obtaining one of the Paragon art inheritances should have been easy, but he had almost died instead. Then why didn't you tell me anything in advance so I could prepare? Other than that, if there's a life gate, why'd you toss me into the death gate? Demanded Long Chen. Don't be so angry. You're overestimating the Martial Heaven Alliance. We only had 2 spots left for the Paragon art inheritance, and you also saw the heroic spirit within the temple. Their energy has reached a limit. This is our current predicament. We had 1 spot for the life gate and 1 for the death gate. Tell me, if it were up to you, would you choose the life gate and leave the death gate to a woman? Is that part of your character? Asked Nantian. Can you not play with me like this? Long Chen couldn't help feeling some angry admiration for Nantian. With that one question, he had made Long Chen speechless. What could he say? If there was only 1 life and 1 death spot, then he really would only be able to choose the death gate. But this scenario was still infuriating either way, and now he had nowhere to vent. Fine, count yourself an expert. I can't beat you when it comes to this. Fortunately, my life is tough enough, or I'd have to haunt you as a ghost, said Long Chen. Seeing Long Chen like this, angry but not able to release it, they laughed. Long Chen, what kind of Paragon art did you obtain? Asked Lingshan. She was very curious. The Paragon art I learned is called Heaven Striking 5 Lightning Rumble. It's perfect to use against people who con me. What about you? Long Chen began spouting nonsense. He hadn't asked the name of the Paragon art, so he didn't know. Furthermore, he hadn't mastered the Paragon art yet. But with Lei Long having learned it, he should still be able to use it. Long Chen was extremely surprised to see that Lingshan was already out. If it hadn't been for Lei Long, it would have taken him months or years to learn the Paragon art. However, Lingshan had come out before him. How could he not be surprised? Yes, I've already learned it. It took me 3 whole years, said Lingshan. What? It's already been 3 years? Long Chen jumped. No, when I entered that world, the senior inside taught me the heaven-rending divine slash. The senior also used that world's energy to open a special spatial domain where I cultivated for 3 years, while only 3 days passed in the Martial Heaven continent, explained Lingshan. A senior? Who guided and taught you? And opened a special spatial domain for you? Long Chen felt like he was about to go crazy. Was the difference between people's fates really so great? She hadn't even been in danger, while he had almost died. When he compared himself to Lingshan, he had an urge to slam his head into the wall. Cough, it was just luck. Yes, just luck. Long Chen, I'm sure you know it's beneficial to run into setbacks. Considering you obtained your Paragon art from the Death Gate, I'm sure it's very powerful, said Nantian hastily. Fine, I'm not jealous. I'm not resentful. I'm used to my bad luck. I just hope that if something similar happens, you can tell me beforehand. Long Chen bitterly smiled. When he thought about it, he found that he really couldn't blame anyone. His natural luck was just this bad. Fortunately, the results were good. At the very least, he had obtained the Paragon art inheritance. He had gained the trust of the lightning drakes in the Morning Dao lightning field, as well as 2 attacking Paragon arts. His gains were very plentiful, so he should be grateful. Do you want to test the power of our Paragon arts and see which one is stronger? Lingshan looked at Long Chen excitedly like she was a child. Clearly, she wished to test the power of her new Paragon art. She also wanted to experience Long Chen's Paragon art. I think we shouldn't. You're a good child, and using the heaven-striking 5 lightning rumble against you isn't suitable. Furthermore, my luck wasn't as good as yours, so I'm still in the midst of mastering it. I can't use it just yet. Long Chen shook his head. Lingshan was a bit disappointed, but she didn't force it. Nantian and the other Grand Elders exchanged a look. Compared to Long Chen, Lingshan was still a bit immature. Long Chen didn't like exposing his power. That was a survival instinct. Perhaps he could dupe Lingshan with this excuse, but he couldn't fool the 4 of them. They could already smell the scent of danger from Long Chen. He was definitely capable of using the Paragon art. Having power but not wanting to expose it, show off, or even obtain other people's approval. At such an age, how few people were capable of this? Alliance Head, how did the large powers react to my battle 3 days ago? Asked Longchen. Chu Jianying's expression gradually became gloomy after being asked this. In one day, Long Chen had slain Di Xian and Xiang Yunfei. That had shaken the continent. During the past 3 days, Chu Jianying had taken a trip through the various large sects and demanded them to declare their positions. Unfortunately, the results were the exact opposite of what she had expected. Some sects were saying that the Martial Heaven Alliance was too chaotic now, and so they were intending to leave. The righteous sects in the eastern and southern Xian region, in particular, were displaying great dissatisfaction with the Martial Heaven Alliance. They said that it was a dictatorship, and the alliance was a weapon controlled by Chu Jianying and Long Chen. Long Chen was barbaric and bloodthirsty, while Chu Jianying actually pampered him and allowed him to do as he wished. He drew enemies from all around, and if this continued, sooner or later the Martial Heaven Alliance would be torn apart. When Chu Jianying heard them say such things, she had an urge to kill people. Just what bastard had started these rumors? Most hateful of all, many sects used the banner of opposing Long Chen to threaten her. If she refused to expel Long Chen and the Xiantian Dao sect from the Martial Heaven Alliance, they would leave instead. Under the lead of the East and the South, the remaining regions also had tens of thousands of sects band together to criticize her. As they spoke up, countless other sects began to sway in the wind. They didn't say that they supported her, and they didn't say that they were against her either. It's clear that Pill Valley is up to their tricks again. No one else has such power to rally supporters. Only Pill Valley has the ability to promise those sects that leaving the alliance won't cause them to immediately become targets of the corrupt path. Pill Valley started laying down the foundation for their plans years ago. Their claws stretched into the interior of the Martial Heaven Alliance, and although you noticed them and eliminated them mercilessly, it seems it's already a bit too late. If the Great Era hadn't come, your methods most likely would have been effective, but with the Great Era, the hearts of the large sects are getting ambitious. The change in eras will completely change the board. The cultivation world will look completely different in the end. Hence, this is the worst era that's filled with cruel competitions where the strong devour the weak. But it is also the best era. The small can suddenly soar and become giants. Perhaps a third-rate sect can even become a supreme sect. So everyone is ambitious and easily seduced by opportunities to grow stronger. Even if Pill Valley wasn't actively seducing them, some of those fellows would still be drawn away from you. Of course, some are devoted to you and prefer stability. Those sects all have some foundations, so they don't need to take the risk of betting. However, there is a good saying, barefoot people aren't afraid of people with shoes. People with nothing to lose don't mind going all in. So many smaller sects that have been kept underfoot, or perhaps large sects whose inheritances are about to be severed, are all willing to bet everything on this era. You don't need to get angry with them over this. This is something that follows every great era. Which great era didn't end with rivers of blood flowing? Comforted Long Chen. Chu Jianying was surprised by his words. She had been focused on the fact that it had been Pill Valley sowing dissension, but she had forgotten the true main point, the people's hearts. It was because she hadn't understood why these people would act so foolishly that she was so angry. Long Chen, do you have a method to change our current predicament? Probed Chu Jianying. I do. Really? What is it? Kill them all. Brat, you dare to toy with me? Raged Chu Jianying. How am I toying with you? Why is it that the corrupt path has no traitors? Because they have terrifying punishments that are worse than death, so their people don't dare to betray them. Long Chen shrugged. Then if we acted like this, wouldn't we be no different from the corrupt path? The Martial Heaven Alliance is just an alliance. As long as they don't betray the righteous path and seek shelter in the corrupt path, we don't have the right to punish them, said Chu Jianying. Then I don't have a solution. It's their mouths and they can say whatever they want. It's also their brains and you can't control what they're thinking. You're just hurting yourself by getting angry. sighed Longchen. Little brat, if you don't give me an explanation about what you just said, you won't be leaving here without a beating. I should warn you that I know all the old man's moves as well. Chu Jianying glared at Longchen. Longchen smiled. I naturally can explain it. The Martial Heaven Alliance is a simple cooperation for the sake of everyone's benefit. With everyone's power collected, it allows people to feel safer. If someone doesn't want to feel safe here and goes somewhere else, let them go. What does their life and death have to do with us? All you need to do is look after the people who are always loyal. As for those people who leave, if they are abandoned and want to come back, just tell them to screw off. Longchen's meaning was clear. They wanted to leave and they were adults. They could take responsibility for their own actions. If you do well, we won't get jealous, but if you don't do well, don't come crying to us. You no longer have anything to do with us. To leave at the most critical time is a betrayal in and of itself. But there are no buts. This is what it means when people say compassion cannot lead troops. Longchen's words are completely correct. As a leader, you must bring out your resolution, said Yen Nantian. Longchen's thinking is identical to us four old fellows. Some people are so foolish that not even a god can save them. You will never be able to wake up everyone, so wasting the time and effort will only make you feel distressed. Furthermore, being distracted by that will lead to errors in judgment for your loyal followers. To save a few foolish people, are you going to let those loyal to you die? Don't you feel that's very foolish? Granduncle Master, I understand. Chu Jianying sighed inside. What she needed right now was to not be indecisive. She needed to be domineering and daring. Yen Nantian nodded. When we told you to demand those sects declare their positions, we expected this result. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Remember those loyal to you. Protecting them is our duty. Even if we have to lose our lives, it'll be worth it. As for those who have rebelled and those opportunists, just directly abandon them. Kick them out of the Martial Heaven Alliance. Chu Jianying was startled. Granduncle Master, that's a bit too arbitrary, isn't it? It had to be known that in the Martial Heaven Alliance, although there was only 10% who openly challenged and tried to threaten her, a total of 30% of the sects were still waiting to see how things turned out. If that 30% was also kicked out, it would be a huge blow to the Martial Heaven Alliance's power. With so many people kicked out, the Righteous Path's sects would become sparser and more open to the Corrupt Path's attacks. They might be quickly annihilated. Don't worry about it, the Corrupt Path will definitely not attack us before things are clear, said Yen Nantian. Why is that? Longchen was the one who replied, because the Corrupt Path won't let Pill Valley get so arrogant, as that's not favorable to them. If they attack us, it will cause more sects to join Pill Valley, and that's not what they want to see. There is a deep enmity between the Righteous Path and the Corrupt Path. As more righteous sects adhere themselves to Pill Valley will naturally be biased toward the Righteous Path. With Pill Valley's support, the righteous sects that join them and have money will definitely launch their own attacks on the Corrupt Path. In that case, the Pill Valley that was neutral will have become an alliance of the Righteous Path. Wouldn't the Corrupt Path be doomed then? Hence, the Corrupt Path is probably also panicking and just watching. They won't make a move rashly. Once you, the head of the Martial Heaven Alliance, make a move, a chain reaction will follow throughout the continent. This is the opportunity to wash away the sand and leave behind only the gold. This is your chance to see who is worthy of your trust. Longchen, this head of yours is not bad. One of the Grand Elders actually praised Longchen. The other Grand Elders nodded. Despite being so young, his vision was sharp. What a little monster. But if you're so smart, why do you always do stupid things? Demanded Chu Jianying. When it came to cunningness, Longchen was basically on the same level as these four wily foxes. Because there are many problems that intelligence can't solve, and the more you try, the more indecisive you become. The opportunities in the cultivation world are fleeting. By the time you finish thinking, those opportunities will be snatched by others. So just like the old man, I like saying that in front of absolute power, all intelligence is nonsense, said Longchen. Master, Yi Lingshan pulled on Chu Jianying uneasily. Don't compare yourself to this fellow. He's a freak. As the alliance head, intelligence is one aspect, but charisma is the most important factor, and you have it. Of course, that's why I'm willing to let you take my place, comforted Chu Jianying. She saw that Yi Lingshan had been given a blow. Long Chen possessed such vision, while she was a far cry from reaching that level. Don't worry, no matter how intelligent or strong he is, he will be your subordinate. If he doesn't listen to you, just tell me. Chu Jianying glared at Long Chen. Cough, I've been away long enough. I'll return back to the Shintian Dao sect to see my brothers. Long Chen stood up. Don't be in a rush yet. Stay for another couple days, and you might receive a stroke of good fortune, said Yan Nandan. Good fortune? Long Chen was surprised. There were more benefits beyond just the Paragon art inheritance? Yes, good fortune. Just yesterday, a manifestation of immortal mist appeared in the northern part of the central Xian region, where the yin-yang world is. That's a sign that the yin-yang world is about to open, said Yan Nantian. What's the yin-yang world? I feel like I've heard of it, asked Long Chen. Yan Nantian explained, it is one of the 7 great danger zones. However, back in the ancient era, there were only 4 danger zones: Devil Spirit Mountain, the yin-yang world, the ancient battlefield, and the corrupt god cemetery. As for the heaven-devouring forest, the martial heaven searing, and the resentful death city, people later added them to the danger zones because they felt that they were very terrifying. The heaven-devouring forest is gone now, and resentful death city isn't a place outsiders can enter. As for the martial heaven searing, it is dangerous, but as long as you don't provoke the truly terrifying existences within it, it's still quite safe. However, the 4 original danger zones are truly forbidden to enter. I heard you've already gone to Devil Spirit Mountain, and so you've seen the Sovereign Blood Seal. The yin-yang world and the corrupt god cemetery also have sovereign blood seals present. As for the ancient battlefield, no one really knows because it's too dangerous to probe its secrets. The corrupt god cemetery isn't a place we can go. It hides the corrupt path's secrets, and even their own people aren't allowed in. So, ignoring the other danger zones, let us discuss the yin-yang world. The yin-yang world was actually a very mysterious existence. Its origins were unclear, but rumor was that it was a channel between 2 worlds, one yang and one yin. Due to their influence, there were some terrifying life forms inside. There were legends of demonic beasts appearing, precious medicines littering the ground, and priceless treasures for everyone. Each time a great era came, the world would open. It was said that every generation of sovereigns had entered the yin-yang world, and some legends said that the sovereigns had left behind Paragon arts within for those destined for their inheritances. Some also said that the yin-yang world was a corner of the immortal world, and the secret to becoming a god or immortal lay within. Thus, each time the yin-yang world appeared, it would draw countless experts. Long Chen, you and Lingshan should prepare yourselves. I will send you in, allowing you to get one step ahead in the yin-yang world and increase your chances of gaining some priceless treasures, said Yan Nantian. Just the 2 of us? Asked Yi Lingshan. Yes. The yin-yang world is filled with danger. The various powers in this world will send their strongest disciples in right at the start. A fight is inevitable, so if others entered, they would just be sending themselves to their deaths, said Yan Nantian. Yi Lingshan was startled by this. In the entire Martial Heaven Alliance, only she and Long Chen were qualified to enter? Just how terrifying was this yin-yang world? Then can I tell my brothers about this? I think that my brothers are all qualified to enter, said Long Chen. Of course you can. However, they will need to wait until the yin-yang world fully opens before they can enter. Other than that, you should think it through. You have many enemies, and if they can't kill you, they'll naturally target the people around you, warned Yan Nantian. I understand. However, my brothers are definitely tough. I'm not worried, said Long Chen confidently. The current Dragonblood Legion was no longer the old Dragonblood Legion. With Guoran and Xia Chen's armaments, they had reached an even more terrifying level. All right, then I'll tell Jianying to see them. The 2 of you, come with me. Yen Nantian waved his hand, and space trembled fiercely. Long Chen and Yi Lingshan felt their surroundings become illusory. There was a spatial channel in front of them that was filled with life and death energy. Long Chen felt like he had entered a crack within space-time. Under Yen Nantian's lead, the three of them quickly flew through the channel. Suddenly, space-time split apart and Long Chen saw a new scene. There were a pile of mountains ahead, but they were shrouded in mist. Spiritual qi was so dense that it was like a wonderland. However, these mountains looked both far and close. Sometimes they were clear, and sometimes they were hazy. It was like they were fading in and out of reality. Before the mountains was a giant gate. This gate was also not entirely real. It was constantly shuddering, and a powerful divine might was coming out of it. Seeing this gate, Long Chen's heart shook. He sensed a familiar aura from this gate. "This is a sovereign seal?" asked Long Chen. "Correct. This gate was left behind by the third-generation sovereign, Emoli. It is here to suppress the life forms within so that they cannot come out," said Yen Nantian. When Yen Nantian mentioned Sovereign Emoli, he was filled with respect. Sovereigns were supreme existences. No matter how high a person's cultivation base grew or how strong they became, people still had to feel great respect and gratitude toward the sovereigns. Their position might even be higher than gods. Because Long Chen had been in contact with the sovereign blood seal in Devil Spirit Mountain as well as Evilmoon seal, he immediately recognized the aura of a sovereign. When it came to the sovereigns, everyone that Long Chen had encountered would be filled with reverence toward them no matter how great their seniority was or how arrogant they were. That made Long Chen sigh emotionally. Sovereigns were the true experts. Long Chen was about to ask what generation the Devil Spirit Mountain sovereign was when he suddenly noticed that quite a few people were already waiting in front of the gate. Yen Nantian, Long Chen, and Yi Lingshan drew quite a bit of attention when they arrived. These people's gazes concentrated on Long Chen. They were staring daggers at him. Long Chen sighed inside. It seemed his bad luck was flaring again. The first person that drew his attention was an extremely large man with a curly beard. This person's neck and head had scales, and his beard was actually growing out of the scales. His pupils were vertical like those of a viper. Just being looked at by him would make a person get goosebumps. His gaze was so terrifying that it was enough to almost make a person's soul flee in terror. He was sitting on the ground, but he was still taller than a normal person who was standing. There was no aura coming from him, but the space around him was constantly twisting. It was unknown what power he possessed that was causing this spatial oddity. Behind this large man was a white-haired elder. He was sitting in meditation, and no one dared to disturb him. As he breathed, two bursts of flames extended and retracted from his nostrils. A strong smell of fire hung in the air. This elder was definitely a terrifying nether passage expert. Long Chen could already sense a fatal danger from him. He also recognized his identity, a Xian beast. Only the Xian beasts could have such powerful physical bodies and such auras. Other than the large man with his elder, he saw 7 other elders from whom he sensed immense pressure. They were clearly also nether passage experts. Each of them had brought 1 or 2 young disciples with them whose cultivation bases were at the peak of soul transformation. Their auras were extremely powerful, and they were all elites. These disciples stared coldly at Long Chen. Some of them didn't even bother to hide their killing intent. Amongst these young disciples, 3 were from the Xian beasts, 5 were from the ancient races, and there were also 2 humans. However, based on their gazes, the 2 of them were very likely from the ancient family alliance. Their gazes were clearly hostile. How unlucky, they're all enemies. There's not one friend. Fuck, there's not even a single neutral person. Long Chen was speechless inside. Had he really reached the point where everyone in this world was his enemy? Yi Lingshan was also a powerful expert in her own right, but being stared at by so many people made her uncomfortable. She sensed a powerful pressure from each of these people. This pressure she felt was around the same level as the pressure Xiang Yunfei had given her. Perhaps all these people were on Xiang Yunfei's level, or not much weaker. She naturally tensed up upon seeing so many experts looking their way. However, Long Chen wasn't the slightest bit tense or even angry in the face of their hostility. You should be Long Chen, correct? That large sitting man stood up. He was a giant, standing at 10 meters tall like an iron tower. He gave off immense pressure. Yes, I am. You don't need to stand to greet me though. Long Chen waved his hand, indicating that there was no need to be so polite. Lingshan was speechless. Just how did Long Chen's head work? That person was filled with killing intent, so how was he being courteous? The corners of that large man's mouth lifted, pulling on the scales on his face. It looked bizarre, but based on human standards, it seemed like a sneer. I am true immortal Jiaoqi. You should know of me. Lingshan was startled. She clearly knew of him. He had gotten into the top 10 of the Devil Slaughter rankings. This true immortal Jiaoqi was a descendant of the ancient Drake and divine Qilin. He possessed 2 terrifying bloodlines and was incredibly powerful. Anyone who had fought against him was killed. Most terrifying of all those enemies that had been slain by him were eaten as well. It didn't matter if they were from the human race, the ancient races, or the Xian beasts, as long as he defeated them, their ultimate fate was to be eaten by him. Long Chen nodded with comprehension. Ah, so you're that idiot who left me a message on the Devil Slaughter rankings. Looking at your face, I understand that you must be the result of inbreeding. Tell me, was your father your mother's cousin? Long Chen had just finished speaking when true immortal Jiaoqi smashed a fist at him. The world rumbled as it went straight for Long Chen's head. True immortal Jiaoqi had suddenly attacked without paying the slightest attention to Nantian who was standing beside Long Chen. His fist contained a strange energy. It was like the world was being torn apart by it. True immortal Jiaoqi was 10 meters tall. He was a giant, and Long Chen had no opportunity to counterattack because his arms and legs just weren't long enough. Boom. Long Chen also let out a punch and ripples exploded in the air. The two of them were both forced dozens of meters back. Long Chen was startled. This true immortal Jiaoqi's power was very strange. It didn't seem to be purely physical strength, but it also wasn't supported by some magical art. He couldn't exactly describe what kind of power this was. However, he clearly felt that this was just a probing blow. True immortal Jiaoqi had not used his full power. No wonder you were able to kill Xiang Yunfei. Good, once we enter the yin-yang world, I'll make sure you end up in different worlds for the rest of eternity. True immortal Jiaoqi's emotionless vertical eyes looked at Long Chen like a viper staring at its prey. Nantian just stood there without saying anything. As for Lingshan, she was uneasy. This true immortal Jiaoqi's name was too resounding. He was known for being terrifyingly powerful. Long Chen swung his slightly numb hand and shook his head. His enmity with the Xian beasts had originated from the cloud chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow. Last time, they had tormented Cloud not because she was part of the cloud chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow but because of Meng Qi's myriad spirit diagram. The myriad spirit diagram was something he had obtained in the Four Nations ancient remnant. It was a priceless treasure left behind by an ascender. There was a complete inheritance of 10,000 beasts within it. In this declined era, many of those inheritances had been lost. The Xian beasts in particular had lost a great deal of their inherited divine abilities due to their bloodlines growing too sparse. But those inheritances could be found within the myriad spirit diagram. Cloud was the best example. Her growth was entirely thanks to the myriad spirit diagram. So it was a must-have treasure for the Xian beasts. Back when Cloud's mother had entrusted Cloud to Long Chen and Meng Qi, she had warned them that they would be implicated, but the two of them still accepted Cloud. As Cloud had grown stronger, she had helped the Dragon Blood Legion turn around fights multiple times. She was an important force in the Dragon Blood Legion and was part of their family. Whether it was because they had tormented Cloud or because they wanted Meng Qi's myriad spirit diagram, Long Chen was fated to be mortal enemies with the Xian beasts. As for this true immortal Jiaoqi in particular, he had left behind a message on the Devil Slaughter rankings, claiming that Long Chen had cheated and was despicable. He had said that he would cut off Long Chen's head as soon as he saw him. That was a naked provocation. Although Long Chen had brushed it off back then, he still remembered it. So as soon as he learned that this giant was true immortal Jiaoqi, he knew things wouldn't be boring. Many people said similar things, but in the end, they all died. Long Chen shook his head. He felt like he had passed the age of needing to say vicious words to raise his own loftiness. You're even more ignorant than I thought. If you fall into Brother Jiaoqi's hands, you will beg for death. Another expert from the Xian beasts sneered at Long Chen. He had 2 golden horns on his head, and his eyes were like a bull's. On top of that, he had a flat nose and extremely large arms. There seemed to be wriggling snakes beneath his skin. His blood qi was astounding. Long Chen looked over this person. He nodded. Not bad, not bad. Your fit and your body can be described as perfect. Yes, the quality of your meat is definitely suitable for my brother. You're courting death, roared that expert. Alright, don't make such a fuss. In front of the senior generation, just saying some vicious words is meaningless. Don't worry, once we enter the yin-yang world, you can come find me at any time. Depending on my mood, I might even go find you. We can happily kill each other. Just how much more satisfying would that be than just glaring and talking here? Said Long Chen. Everyone here was his mortal enemy, so he couldn't be bothered to waste the effort talking to them. With the senior experts present, the most they could do was launch probing blows at each other. It was impossible to kill anyone. Long Chen wasn't interested in testing their power. When he fought, he had one goal, and that was to eliminate his opponent. Who was bored enough to play this game with them? Alright then, let's just wait. Hopefully, you don't run right into Brother Jiaoqi right at the start, or you'll die too quickly for us to enjoy your appearance right before death. We'll make sure to release how you look before death to everyone. The first place of the Devil Slaughter rankings is actually just a piece of pow. Before the horned expert could finish speaking, Long Chen seemed to teleport, appearing right in front of him and slapped him in the face. A loud explosive sound mixed with the sound of bones breaking rang out. That expert's cheekbones were broken and his head caved in. I already said not to make such a fuss. Do you not understand human words? Long Chen borrowed the force from slapping this expert to return. He had been like a phantom, and by the time others reacted, things were already over. Lingshan had jumped in shock upon seeing Long Chen charge into the midst of their enemies and had just been preparing to help when Long Chen returned. The horned expert slammed into a distant mountain and bore a hole straight through it. It could be seen how much power Long Chen had used in his slap. Little brat, you must want to die. The horned expert's elder, who also had a pair of golden horns on his head, suddenly rose. Golden light exploded out of his horns, shooting toward Long Chen like a golden sword. When that golden sword appeared, Long Chen felt the world solidify around him and he couldn't move. He could only watch as that death sword approached him. However, there wasn't the slightest panic in his eyes. He didn't even try to block or dodge it. He just calmly looked at that elder and slowly raised his 2 middle fingers. Just as that golden sword was about to reach Long Chen, Lingshan's sword came out of its sheath. It not only shattered the golden sword, but a sharp sword qi also slashed off one of that elder's horns, causing him to scream. The sword light appeared for just an instant before it was over. Nantian slowly resheathed Lingshan's sword, his expression calm. He didn't say a thing. It was as if he had done an insignificant thing. However, his attack had stunned everyone. All the Nether Passage experts stared at him with disbelief. They suddenly thought of something very terrifying. Nantian indifferently said, "The great era has descended. You're not the only ones rising. Others are as well, so it would be best if you reserve yourselves a bit." Just at this moment, a giant horn landed on the ground. That was the horn that Nantian had severed. It only landed now. Many thanks, Grand Elder. What great luck. A bull horn this big can be manufactured to many combs, and not just combs, but even bracelets, rings, clappers. Yes, this can definitely be turned into some good profit. Long Chen had appeared in front of the horn at some point. He was caressing it as he spouted nonsense. This was a Nether Passage expert's horn, and not just that, This was a horn in which that expert's divine abilities were concentrated. It possessed its own powerful runes and was on the same level as an ordinary divine item. Longchen didn't quite care about a quasi-divine item in comparison, but this thing was definitely useful. Without a word, Longchen put the horn away, taking advantage of when people were still stunned by Yen Nantian's attack. He then quickly returned to Yen Nantian's side. "Bastard, return my horn!" That elder roared. His divine abilities were concentrated in his horns, so losing a horn was half crippling him. He would be unable to use many divine abilities. This horn was connected to his soul, so it should have been impossible for others to take it just like that. He had no idea how Longchen had done it, but he actually lost his connection to his horn when Longchen put it away. It was like it had vanished from this world. Don't you think your words are a joke? Why would we return our battle spoils? When the Xian beasts kill others, do you return their lives back to their families? Asked Longchen disdainfully. At this moment, true immortal Jiaoqi's elder opened his mouth. "Yen Nantian, don't you think you're going too far? The Xian beast's divine abilities cannot be allowed to spread to the outside world. That golden horn had divine runes on it. If others controlled it, they would be able to unleash its divine abilities. It would become a divine item. Although it would just be a quasi-divine item that the large powers wouldn't care too much about, the main thing was that it was a humiliation for the Xian beasts. Just cutting off one of your horns is going too far? Are you idiots? Just now, that horned bull tried to kill me, but you didn't say that was going too far. All I did was slap a calf, and this old bull, a grand nether passage expert, attacked me, a soul transformation disciple. Why didn't you say that this was far too? I really wonder sometimes if the only thing in your heads is crap. Do you even think before speaking?" sneered Longchen. The Xian beasts really had a beast's head. That elder's expression sank, and he was about to speak when Yen Nantian opened his mouth first. "Longchen is correct. If you don't like it, then attack. Some things can't be resolved with words. It just so happens that my Martial Heaven Alliance is looking for an opportunity to show our power. Eliminating a few Nether Passage experts should be quite effective." When Yen Nantian said this, those Nether Passage experts' expressions changed. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.